Good evening, Sifters. It's GameFace episode 62 on Sifted Games. We have a very special guest with us today. A guest host, Matt, is out of town. I don't know if anyone's ever seen you before, but this is Brent Phillips.
How's it going?
Ultimate Brent, the builder of Sifted, who has just moved back to Los Angeles. I talked a couple weeks ago about how we're going to get him on some shows, and this was a perfect opportunity. So, Brent, welcome to GameFace.
Thanks.
And welcome back to Los Angeles.
Oh, man, it feels good to be home.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. So he moved to North Carolina literally like 2 weeks after we started working on Sifted.
Yeah.
I went out to meet him where he lives, kind of in the Valley.
Glendale.
Valley-ish, Glendale. We had lunch and we talked about it, and then he was gone like 2 weeks later. So working on Sifted together was like almost entirely remote. We're going to get to that a little bit later in the show, so we're not going to talk about it too much right off the top. But welcome to the show. Good to finally get you. You probably know Brent. He has the Big Bada Boom Cast, the Sifted community podcast that he does every week.
Very popular.
Yeah, with Ryan Kramer, and you've had a couple Sifters on there as well on your show. And he's continued to do that. You even put out an episode like while you were moving across the country. How did you do that?
I had arrived by then. I just did it on the floor with no furniture. It was really echoey because there was nothing around.
Yeah. So anyway, you guys are finally getting to meet Brent. We'll be talking about working on Sifted together a little bit later in the show. But for now, let's talk about a couple of the smaller things that have happened this week. The BioShock collection came out this week. First of all, are you interested in buying that at all, Brent? Do you think it's too soon?
I don't know that it's too soon, but I feel like I consumed those games. I don't really have a want to play it again.
Do you not go back and replay games?
I always want to, and then I play like an hour of them, and I'm like, eh.
No, I'm the same way. Yeah. I'm like that too. Like, it's not even that I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
Like, anytime I start playing a game for a second time, I start thinking to myself, but wait, there's this like other game that just came out that like I should probably would be better to spend my time on that. And I think it's the guilt that eventually just overcomes
Steam backlog guilt.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I can't play games anymore to just enjoy them. I mean, I organically end up enjoying a lot of games that I play for work, but I never just like sit down and I'm like, kick my feet up and I'm like, here we go. Let's play a video game. Like, even when I'm playing games that I'm liking while I'm playing them, I'm always worried about, oh my gosh, I missed that moment. I need to capture that. Or there's always like other stuff going on. I can never just like, I don't have the privilege that you guys have, where you can just go buy a game, come home, and just play it at your own pace. That's the other thing, too, is that you can't just like play it when you want. Like, it's like, okay, I have 3 hours today. Like, I've been doing this with Forza Horizon 3 the last couple of days. It's like, all right, that part of the curation is done. Just talk to like the T-shirt plays. Just did this. I got an hour and 38 minutes. Run out, play Forza for an hour and 38 minutes, and then ding, ding, ding. I got to get up and like it's not the ideal way to enjoy video games. So, yeah, but I'm not complaining. I still feel pretty lucky to be able to say that I do it for a living. So yeah, I'm probably not going to go back and play BioShock again. I'm like you. My favorite is the very first one. I think pretty much everyone would say that.
It was like mind-blowing when it came out. I remember we got an advanced copy at Game Trailers, and Ryan, the guy I do the podcast with, I'd been out at a meeting and came back, and one of the other programmers was like, Ryan has a copy of BioShock. I was like, what? How did he get that? And like somebody come over to the tech team and given us one. He just taken it. So I challenged him to a Super Smash Brothers Melee tournament.
That's right.
And I beat him and took it. It was great.
Brent, back in the day at GT, and Brent worked at Game Trailers as well. He was he built GT, like 3 or 4 different revisions of GT he built.
3 through 6 or something like that.
Yeah. And so I had an office on one side of the building, and then yours was directly across the room from mine. So, like, I could see and hear everything that was always going on in your office. And every day at lunch, Brent would have, like, 10 people in his office crammed in there playing Smash Brothers on the GameCube. And you'd hear people hooping and hollering and yelling, and, like, it was great. Like, I loved that atmosphere that you guys brought to the office when you would do that. But I
eventually got it talking, too. We had to keep it down.
Really? That doesn't surprise me all that much, actually. I don't know why I'm saying really, really, knowing how that place was. And
we still played. We were just quiet.
Yeah. But lots of things, I think, were settled with Smash Brothers at the GT office.
It was a good way to settle your problems, especially because I was one of the best. It worked out well for me.
I think it's a good way to, because a lot of people that worked at GT, they weren't necessarily like a part of like the content team, like you weren't, like you built the site, but a lot of people there played games anyway. And because I didn't get, I mostly worked with the editorial team, it was a great opportunity to get to know people and kind of, I don't know, become more than just colleagues with them. So I love that you did that. I thought that was great. It's a good way to bring people together in the office. Again, doesn't surprise me that they told him to stop eventually.
I wish I had done that with the intent of making the office more friendly. I really just wanted to play.
Yeah, I know.
It works out.
And settle a grudge. So the news about the BioShock collection is that you cannot live stream the BioShock collection if you're trying to stream from your PlayStation 4 or from your Xbox One. For whatever reason, 2K has told the platform holders that...
Is there an embargo on this? Are they worried people are going to find out they didn't actually make it
the games have
look
been
that
out
good?
for like ever. I have no idea why this is happening. It makes no sense whatsoever. But I'm sure you've been playing games before, and like that screen will pop up. Like if you go to hit your share button sometimes during a cutscene, a lot of games will say you can't share this part of the game.
Oh, I actually haven't had that happen.
Oh, really? You've never noticed that before? But yeah, so that happens. Like certain cutscenes and certain scenes, they won't let you take screenshots of it, or won't let you like take video of it or record the video of it. So it just looks like 2K was like, we're just gonna black out the whole freaking game. It doesn't make any sense. And if you're trying to stream on like a piece of equipment that you have, like an AverMedia Gamer Portable or whatever, it's fine. Or if you use,
they can't stop that.
No, they can't stop that. So it's just weird that they're picking and choosing how to do this, and why. I really have no idea why they would do it.
I mean, maybe they're worried that you would get the nostalgia effect that you want from just watching the video, and they'd be like, "Oh wait, why would I pay $60 for this? I just watched it, and that's all I needed."
One thing I would say too is that 2K actually is pretty aggro on YouTube. Because I was about to say, well, you could just watch the whole playthrough on YouTube, but actually with 2K, you probably couldn't. They are rough. In fact, I've given up on YouTube, by the way. We put up Factor on there. The show gets flagged every time now, every single time, and we make so little money on that show. The average episode, I think we make $5 per episode. That I just don't even care anymore.
Should cover costs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it covers it and then some. So it's just a promotional tool to try to get people to the site, and I've just given up on even going through the whole process of trying to get strikes turned off. And so right now publishers are just making all the Factor money, and boy are they getting rich. Anyway, I just thought that was peculiar. It was just one of the smaller things from this week. South Park, The Fractured Butthole. So you have to put the right emphasis on the right syllable with that one. The Fractured Butthole has been delayed until, they didn't even give a date, just early 2017, Q1 2017. The release date originally was December 6th or something like that, which was probably a bad idea in the first place.
It's a crowded zone there.
Yeah, it's not even that it's crowded. It's by December 6th, most people have bought Christmas
You've already
presents.
had Black Friday. And all that,
and so the big part of the shopping season is over. At that point, all you're going to get are the people like me who procrastinate.
Yeah, I haven't bought mine by then.
I haven't bought anything by then. But most people have, like my mom. She has her Christmas club where she saves up her money, and then she gets that disbursement 2 days before Black Friday, and then she does all her shopping in 4 days, and she's done.
Yeah.
I don't do that at all. I mean, a big problem for me is that I have to fly back to the East Coast for the holidays. So if I bought stuff before then, I'd have to put it all in a suitcase and then get it across the country. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
So for me, I buy all my gifts late, and those are really the only people that this game was going to target by the end of the year. I mean, it just kind of makes sense, period. Although you start looking at Q1 of next year, and it's honestly more crowded than Q4 of this year because many big games. Right, for now, because they'll probably all be delayed.
They'll get pushed out, too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like South Park is one of those games that you probably buy for people who don't buy their Christmas presents early.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point.
My mom's not going to get me the Fractured Butthole game. It's going to be a friend or something. I don't know if it would have affected it that much, but I hope.
I wonder if that game in general will be a big gift-giving type deal anyway.
Know, right?
Who wants to buy someone that says Fractured Butthole on it for Christmas?
I'm going to give it to everyone I know.
That would be, for us, that's a great gift. Family members, Uncle Johnny, probably not so much. So let's see what else. Finally, after a lot of rumors and speculation, Assassin's Creed, the Ezio Collection was announced this week formally with a trailer. we're like in the remaster remake generation. Like it's just really become disgusting. We're going to talk about Tokyo Game Show here in a minute, and there were no new games really announced at Tokyo Game Show, and that's just kind of the way the industry is headed right now. The only announcements we seem to get anymore besides at E3 are for remasters and remakes. And here's another one. This one I would say not quite too soon, because like the first Assassin's Creed could really use like a remaster.
For sure.
The second one was where it really kind of hit its stride. And Brotherhood, in my opinion, is the best Assassin's Creed of them all. I think generally that it's at least high on a lot of people's lists. But watching the trailer, did you get a chance to watch it by any chance?
No.
It's really not all that impressive of a remaster.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some screenshots and stuff. It really didn't look like it was all that different.
No. It didn't look like that. The only thing it looks like is just in a higher resolution. Like, it doesn't look like they remodeled anything or retextured anything. Like, it's just a little crisper and cleaner.
Maybe higher frame rates and stuff. I wonder if people are doing... Well, I wonder if now people might be more inclined to do a collection because this may be the last generation. Like, this collection will always work.
Yeah, that could be.
Because, like, it's not like in 2 years you just be like, oh, I guess I'll buy the Ezio Collection Part 2.
Yeah. It could be.
Maybe. It has a little bit more value than usual.
I like that you're trying to find a way
I'm trying.
to have it all make sense.
I'm on your side, publishers.
I appreciate that. I am not on the side of the
Give me an updated TIE Fighter, and I'll say all you need.
Let's see what else. Also, The Last Guardian was delayed again. I think it was actually delayed to the date, to South Park's old release date.
It's just sliding along.
Yeah, I think it just took South Park's place. Obviously, the games are completely different. In fact, I don't think there could be two video games.
Very similar plots.
I don't think there could be two video games more polar opposites than South Park, The Fractured Butthole, or The Last Guardian. So it just moved right in there and took its slot. But and we'll talk about The Last Guardian here in a bit as well. So, and one final thing before we get on with the show, just want to mention GameFace is going to be undergoing a rework in the very near future. I realized last week when we finished the show that the show has been the same for like a year and plus, which...
61 episodes? 62
it's insane,
episodes.
Yeah. It's really hard to believe we've done 62 episodes of this show already. The time, I mean, that's the thing about working hard and spending a lot of time at work. Like, your life just whizzes by. Like, it's really crazy. Like,
have a couple of kids. Goes even faster.
Oh, I can't even imagine. Like, if a kid was thrown into my mix right now, it would not be good. For me or for the kid. It would not be good. So, I realized, and I was talking to the TriCaster operator, Sam, and he was like, yeah, some of the files on this say, like, April 2015. And I was like, yeah, they do. So the show's going to go through a bit of a rework. It's not going to be completely flipped upside down and be a different show, so don't freak out if you're a big fan of the way it is now. Just working on a different look for the show, maybe give the show a little bit more flexibility. We'll probably be putting up a thread in the forums to let you guys kind of have your say on what you'd like to see with the show going forward and how you'd like to see it change. We've kind of done that before, but this time it's for reals. And
this time we're going to read it.
This time we're going to read it. Yeah. But yeah, so we'll be asking for your input, and we'll certainly take some of the stuff to heart when we go to rework the show. But I feel like one thing I would say is I feel like the show's a little too rigid. Like, we have to have 6 topics every week. And just doing GameFace Freestyle for a few weeks while Sam was gone, I thought this show, while it was not as well produced because it didn't have all the graphics and all the flash of a normal GameFace, I just felt like the structure of the show was a little more better, and it was certainly easier to, like, create a show every week.
Right.
Because when you have to have 6 big topics every week, some weeks, particularly over the last couple months, it's been really difficult.
There's some stretches.
Yeah, definitely some stretches.
One of ours is SIFTD.
Yeah. But that's not so much that there's not stuff to talk about. There's actually plenty of stuff to talk about this week. But just because you're on the show, I thought it was a good time to kind of look back on the stuff that we did for the site. So anyway, GameFace is going to get a bit of a facelift, a little bit of a rework in the near future. I don't want to spoil too much, but just wanted to let you guys know that. So with that...
I'm going to ask you after, because now I'm really curious.
Yeah. And I will tell Brett. With that, let's get to the Big 6. All right, Brent. So Tokyo Game Show happening right now in Japan. I'm sure you remember the days at GT where we'd all pack up all our stuff and we'd be gone for 10 days and come back looking
empty.
like zombies.
It was
Yeah, it was empty.
Everyone's
it was
sick
great.
and tired. Yeah.
Nobody wants anything from me for 10 days. You were like kicking your feet up playing Smash Brothers.
Well, not typically, because the traffic would go nuts.
Yeah.
Well, things used to get announced at TGS.
Yeah, TGS used to be relevant.
Yeah.
And we talked about it last year on GameFace about how the show's really fallen in stature and things like that. And I wouldn't say it got worse this year. It's kind of on par with prior years, although I did see Polygon put out a photo gallery of TGS. And, of course, these photos were taken from the press day, which is like you get a day or two before the open show days when the crowds come in, and it's just insane. No matter what, it's going to be insane.
Right.
But having been there like 10 or 11 times to Tokyo Game Show on press days, it's a wasteland. There's nobody there. Like, it used to be scattered, like pockets of people, and now it's just literally like empty. Like, those photos almost made me cry. I looked at them. I was like, oh my gosh, what's happened? Like,
was that a reflection on TGS or the dwindling resources of video game journalism?
I think it's both. Like, here's the thing. Like, you're not going to find YouTubers going to Tokyo Game Show.
No.
Like, none of those guys are going to spend their own money. Like, if somebody paid for them to go, I'm sure they go.
Right.
But they're not going to spend their own money to go to Tokyo Game Show, one. Two, a lot of YouTubers, like, don't really care about Japanese games all that much. Like, a lot of the popular YouTubers play Western games, which is kind of odd. I never really thought about it, but...
Yeah, there's a market there.
There's a window. Maybe Brent did it. But, I don't see them going to do it. So that could be a part of it. The other part of it is, you're right. Like, even compared to a couple years ago, there's a lot less sites and a lot less people working at each one of those sites. Like, GameSpot just lost Danny O'Dwyer, who had been there for years, and, like, there's no word on them replacing him. It looks like they're just going to roll with who they got and not, restaff. And, things aren't looking good in that realm. So, that definitely makes a difference. I mean, we used to roll there with GT with like 10 or 15 people. We'd have like 5 or 6 people just for GT TV on Spike.
Yeah.
And then we'd have like 8 people from the website going there to just rip the show a new one. So we're just one. And you start thinking about all the sites that have gone away over the last like 2 or 3 years, and each one of those taking 5 to 10 people, it makes a big difference. And I'm guessing
it's like 50 less people, easy.
Yeah, easy. And I'm guessing even IGN at this point has probably cut down the staff that it sends there. We've mentioned on the show before, there was one year when I was working at G4 with Matt where we literally sent like 40 or 50 people ourselves to Tokyo Game Show. That was probably in 2003 or 2004. And that's probably when it was in its heyday. And here's the thing, on Saturday, it'll still be crazy. It will be mobbed with people. Like, even though nobody buys games in Japan, they still all go to Tokyo Game Show for some reason. It's really weird. And like, you go to Akihabara, it's still crowded down there, but no one's buying anything apparently. So I wouldn't say it went down this year. Even just looking at photos and anecdotal evidence, it looks like it's kind of on par with last year.
It's not any worse than last year, but it's still down overall.
Yeah. But let's talk about some of the games. Let's first talk about the Sony press conference. Did you get to watch it at all?
I did, and I caught up on all my all my TGS stuff by going on SIFTD.
Yeah.
Like, no shit, I've been moving. I haven't had a computer for a long time. It was nice. It actually, like,
I
typically go every day, all the time. It was nice to like be able to be like, oh, 2 week.
Yeah, and actually click the time sorting.
That was nice. I never do that.
That's when you really see SIFTD work really well, is when you sort by the bigger time periods. Like, even 2 days. Like, you'll just find that, like, everything that's on the top is exactly what you want.
Stuff I actually cared about.
And, like, nice. I use it every week to prepare for GameFace. So I just sort the site by the week. And, like, literally the top, like, 30 or 40 things, like, there is what I have to choose from for the show. It's amazing. Like, you should try it. But so they had their press conference. I thought maybe it might just be a complete repeat of what they had just done in New York. Because they just had the big PlayStation 4 Pro thing in New York, like, a week ago. And so I assumed a lot of it would just be a big repeat, and it was.
Some of it was, yeah.
I mean, they showed off PlayStation 4 Pro, they showed off the Slim.
They showed off some Vita stuff?
Yeah, they showed 2 new models of the Vita.
Like, what? Why? I thought they weren't even making games for it anymore.
Oh, in Japan, they announced new games for it almost every day.
Oh, man.
Almost every day there's a new Vita game. Like, we've almost got to the point now where we don't even, like, curate a lot of them, because some of them are, like, really obscure and, like, weird.
For sure.
But we curate
they had a couple RPGs for it.
Yeah, like, we curate any JRPG from a major publisher, like any of that type of stuff, we'll make sure that we get it on the site. But, I mean, like, some of the stuff that was just announced in the last couple of days at Tokyo Game Show for the Vita, I'm just like, what? What is that? I have no idea what that is. And so we don't curate it all. But, yeah, I mean, that just shows you the difference in the markets. The Vita, putting out 2 brand new models now, Go back to E3. The Vita
gotta get
wasn't
those other
even
colors.
mentioned at E3 at their press conference.
No.
Not even mentioned.
Didn't even pretend it existed.
Nope. I mean, we never got hardly any colors here. I think at this point there's like 10 or 11 different Vita colors in Japan. Like it's...
I mean, does the colors... Maybe the colors thing works better in Japan?
I mean, it works here too.
I couldn't care less about what color my
I
Vita
couldn't really
is.
either. But if you remember back to like the N64, whenever...
all the colored controllers...
The N64, like, you would see bumps in sales as they had that weird, like, slime green see-through one that they put out. Like, even that one, like, the next month on the MPD, the N64, like, spiked up. Like, they had that goofy Pikachu N64 that literally was, like, the body of Pikachu, and, like, his nose was, like, the power button or something crazy. Like, it works. Like, even in America, it works. And, look, if you're somebody, some collectors is a big part of it. Every year I go to TGS, I would go to the Pokemon store, and they would have limited edition Nintendo handhelds there that you could only buy there. So you go to the Pokemon store there, and they'd have like 3. Like the last one I think I bought was like a GBA or something. But I got this crazy like greenish silver GBA. I bought it, took it home, never opened it. And like a year ago, I went and I looked on eBay just out of curiosity to see like how much it was worth, and it's worth like $350. So
nice.
Yeah, I mean. So there are collectors that buy some of this stuff too, and a lot of times they only put out like a small quantity. But I think the Vita in Japan, it just consistently sells. Like people are still buying it there. But obviously in the U.S.,
I really like my Vita. I wish it well.
I liked past tense. Like I literally haven't turned the thing on in forever.
That's true.
I mean, the other part of it too is that most of the games for it now are cross-platform play. Like you can play them on they're PlayStation 4 games, and that's the same case in Japan too. Like. Most new games that are announced in Japan are for the PlayStation 4 and the Vita. It's crazy. They don't make Xbox One versions; they make Vita versions, which is really
got to be harder.
Yeah. So, what were your overall impressions of the Japanese press conference from TGS?
I don't know that I've watched one of these before. It was kind of nuts.
Here's the crazy thing: is so it used to be like we go to the Tokyo Game Show press conferences and. You walk in, and if you're from foreign press, they hand you these little devices that you would clip onto your belt and you put in your ear. It's a translation. Well, now you're actually like hearing, and what we ended up doing is like we would go and we'd shoot the press conferences, and we'd take that little box, and before we got there, we knew how it worked. So we would go to Radio Shack, and we would get the jack that would jack into these translation things.
Yeah.
And we go out of that thing into our camera so you can hear the translation in our camera. That's all they're doing now, is they're just taking that out and just putting it into the stream, which is what we used to do. And we'd come back and we'd have like the English translation without having to pay somebody to like translate the whole thing or whatever. So,
well, mine was extra weird because the audio kept desyncing on the YouTube video.
People have been
but I couldn't tell. Because, I don't know, it's
well,
an English translation. I didn't know that it was desyncing, and then all of a sudden there's these weird noises over different things. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe Japanese people like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw somebody mention that.
It took me way too long to figure it out.
Yeah, I saw somebody mention that in the comments on SIFTD. I honestly, I went back and watched it again, and I could not get the audio to unsync. Like, I don't know what
I couldn't get it to sync.
Wow, it's really bizarre. But it's translated anyway. Does it really matter if you're hearing the Japanese voice, like, in time with, I guess, the trailers and the gameplay?
Well, it was the trailers, like, you'd hear it was like 2 minutes late.
2 minutes?
Yeah, so you'd hear this like really creepy Resident Evil trailer or whatever over Hot Shots Golf. And
What?
It's like, what's happening? This is the weirdest game.
I never saw that. That's crazy. That's kind of awesome.
I've been out of the Hot Shots Golf for a while, but
they really
maybe I should check it out.
They really changed it up for the PS4. But yeah, I mean, overall, the press conferences there are much more rigid, much more boring.
Yeah.
Very little flash. Like, it's just like one person comes out, they say something, they bow, and then they walk off. There's, like, not much applause. Like, it's really weird. And when you're there in person, it's even more weird because you're used to being at press events here in the U.S. where it's just like everything. Applause, clap. Some fanboys will stand up and scream.
Yeah.
And they're like, people just watch. Like, they don't say anything. They don't clap. They just sit there. The only applause you'll hear, those are the Americans who came for Tokyo Game Show. That's why you just hear that like little smattering of like 50 people.
I wonder if all the Japanese people are like, who are these?
Oh, they know who they are by now. They definitely know who they are. But I was kind of surprised that their focus on some of the games I was a little surprised about. Like, I was surprised how many Western games they showed. Like, Horizon Zero Dawn. Like, they put out a brand new trailer for Horizon Zero Dawn, which is an awesome trailer, by the way, if you haven't watched it yet. that basically shows the world before the apocalypse. Did you get to watch it?
Yeah, I saw that transformation. I mean, I had completely different audio, but I saw the trailer.
Well, it's archived on the site. You can watch it now with audio sync. But like the fact that some of these Western developers and publishers created trailers specifically for Tokyo Game Show for their Western game, I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
like,
step in the right direction.
Yeah, like that normally doesn't happen. And look, there are some other offenders, like the Days Gone trailer just basically was the same trailer but with Japanese narration over top of it.
Yeah.
So there was some corners cut here and there. But overall, I was pretty surprised that they showed so many Western games, and maybe that's just a factor of the way the industry's headed right now anyway.
Yeah, certainly bigger than it was.
Yeah. I mean, they did a...
or rather, Japan smaller.
Yeah. Here's something interesting. So they gave out, like, Game of the Year awards, like the first day of TGS. And Splatoon won Game of the Year in Japan, which actually that makes perfect sense, because it's a sensation in Japan. It's, like, huge there.
Yeah.
And then...
people like it.
Best multiplayer game was Call of Duty Black Ops 3. That's a shocker to me. I mean, a first-person shooter in Japan getting best multiplayer game of the year.
Like, specifically the Xbox One version. I feel like that did really well in Japan.
So it does appear that things are changing there. Like, it seems like the people who are still playing console and handheld games are starting to enjoy Western games a little more.
Yeah.
The mobile people, I think, are just lost, and they're never coming back. I don't think you could do anything at this point to get the people who have switched over to mobile gaming in Japan to come back and play consoles again. So,
I mean, there's so much time spent on subways and stuff. Like,
yeah.
I mean, maybe you can take your NX.
Yeah, I think that's probably what Nintendo's going for at this point. Although I think shooting for the Japanese audience is a huge mistake. I think they should be shooting for the West if they really want to be successful, but that's a whole other topic. So... So, yeah, I mean, the press conference overall was really dry, kind of boring, but I thought they had a good mix of games. I thought they still catered to Japan. They showed a ton of JRPGs. They showed some creepy VR stuff. Like, they're always going to. Like, it seems like half of the VR games in Japan are, like, just gawk at a half-naked girl game.
Yeah, some of the stuff that you curate just for fun, like, saw that on their press conference. It was like, wait, that's...
No, it's real. Like, they actually promote
right in front
that.
of everyone, the one where you're like a tutor or something.
Yeah. Summer lessons.
Wow.
Summer lessons. I mean, there's obviously Dead or Alive Extreme. There's summer lessons. There's a new one that they just showed at the press conference that was like, you're the landlord of a mansion where 3 young girls are living there. Like, yeah. It's just a cultural difference, right?
Well, once you're in the VR, no one can see what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, whatever.
Well, you don't think they can see what you're doing, but they can. Let's talk about some of the games specifically. Resident Evil 7, they showed... Well, they didn't show. They just released a brand new trailer. I think, honestly, it's probably the first trailer for the game.
Yeah, everything before has just been kind of
Gameplay.
quick shots, yeah.
Well, a quick shot's like, or just straight up like, here's like 10 minutes of the game being played.
Yeah.
This one was actually kind of cut together. Are you a horror fan? Do you like horror movies? Horror movies, not horror movies.
Horror movies? Love horror movies. I don't know. I like scarier games than I do the movies. Like, Dead Space is one of my favorite games. But I kind of bounced off the Resident Evil series entirely.
Oh, really?
I can never get my hands around the controls. Like,
Really?
I don't like...
So wait, your entire gaming career, you've never enjoyed Resident Evil? Is that right?
No.
Wow.
Everyone, like, yelled at me for not playing 4.
Yeah.
So I played 4.
As they should have.
I was like, I don't like this. I'm done.
You didn't like Resident Evil 4?
I don't like the controls.
But Resident Evil 4 had different controls.
It did have different controls. They were still bad.
No way.
It was still hard for me to do what I wanted to do.
Do you like third-person shooters?
Yeah.
You do. And you
I like
didn't.
Dead Space.
Wow, that's really bizarre. So you have never finished a Resident Evil game?
No, never.
Oh, actually, that's good though. It's perfect that you're on this show because what do you think of this one? Like,
I think it looks
is
creepy
this
as
calling to you, or you think you might be interested in playing it? Because I mean, I'm guessing that if there's a big change for the game this time, like they're probably shooting to try to reach new audiences.
I mean, it looks really interesting so far. Like, I got some really deep PT vibes, which I guess you're supposed to, from that one hallway shot. And then I just imagine being in VR and having that like crazy family feed you intestines. You're just like, I don't know if I can take that, but I'm excited they're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, the new trailer that they put out, it was much less ambiguous than the stuff they put out before. It was clearly defined. There was people like talking and characters and actual dialogue and other humans that you actually meet, like interact with.
Yeah,
as
you
disturbing.
see like a cop comes, like not everyone's evil.
Right. As you know, as disturbing as it may be, they were actual people that you're interacting with instead of a bunch of bugs scurrying along the ground or rotting flesh on a kitchen table, which is kind of what we've got so far from this game. So, you think you might give it a try?
It's always going to be a wait for reviews kind of situation at the very least.
Are you getting a PlayStation VR?
That's kind of a wait for reviews situation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Fair
I mean,
enough.
I had an Oculus pre-ordered, and then they got so weird with the release date, and then they sent me an email. They're like, in 2 weeks we'll tell you something. I was like, you know what? F you guys. I'm out. And then so I pre-ordered a Vive, and I was like, I don't know, it's like $800.
It's a lot.
So now I don't have anything. I think I'm sold because I'm going to get a PS4 Pro, and then I think the PSVR will be kind of maybe not on par, but it'll be good enough.
I got my PlayStation VR for my birthday. My birthday was back
cool.
in February, and my wife's like, "What do you want for your birthday?" And I was like, "Something
I
that
want
comes
this in
out
10
in
months."
October."
Yeah.
So she's about to pay the piper here in like the next few weeks. Finally, buy me my birthday gift. But that's how I got it. And I'm still trying to get Oculus. Oculus like contacted me. They're like, "We're going to send you one," and that was like 2.5 months ago. I messaged them like, "What's up?" They're like, "We're waiting for allocation." They're like sold out everywhere, and we have pre-orders we're still trying to fill. And like, I think that's all solved
everywhere?
now. Yeah, I think it's. I don't know what the deal is. So I don't know.
I feel like Vive has kind of won so far.
Oh yeah, it has won. Yeah. It's still expensive though.
Yeah, that doesn't give me $800 to buy it. But I'm glad that there was someone who was sort of a winner. I was really worried at the beginning that I would buy Oculus and then Vive would win, and then then I'd be stuck, especially with all the room stuff for Vive. Like all the Oculus stuff you could play on Vive through one way or the other, but you can't play all the Vive stuff on the Oculus.
That's true. Yeah, it just doesn't work that way. So,
well, the point was you still kind of have that effect with the PSVR. Like if the room stuff is really what takes off, like I mean, I guess you have the camera and the.
I mean, I would say at this point, PlayStation VR is probably the safest bet in virtual reality. I think, because it's the cheapest, and I think it's going to have the biggest install base. I mean, the install base for Oculus and Vive is still really small. And look, Vive is kicking Oculus's butt, but, you know...
Relatively.
2 times 2 is 4, is what I'm saying. Like, and I think it's sold double Oculus. At least that's the words that's going around the industry right now, is that it's outsold Oculus by 2 to 1. But, you know, 0 times a million is 0. So.
Well, does it come with the PlayStation Eye and all that stuff? Like, I don't have any of that, so I'm gonna have. It's actually not a cheap buy-in for me.
No, it's not. Yeah, and you need the Move controllers. And,
yeah,
I mean, there's a bundle that has all that stuff packed into it, though. I mean, I already have all that stuff, so I just bought like just the head-mounted display and the base package. But you can buy a bundle for like an extra. I think it's $100. It has
That's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's doable. But I would think, going back to why I brought this up, is Resident Evil 7 is probably going to be like the killer app for PlayStation VR. And so that's why I was wondering if maybe, if you're getting PlayStation VR, that Resident Evil 7 might be something that you pick up right out of the gate.
Yeah, I mean, what I had heard about Resident Evil 7 VR was that it was the one-way ticket to Vomit Town. Like, the frame rates just weren't at the point where they could do that right. But maybe with the PS Pro, they crossed that threshold. I mean, I don't know. I know you have to be at least over 60 to not throw up every time you turn around.
Yeah, I mean, look, I played it at E3, and it was tough. I'll say that. And it was running on the original base PlayStation 4. And in all honesty, like, the game didn't look that good to me on top of it all. Like, the one thing I would say about Resident Evil...
sacrificing on both ends.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say about Resident Evil 7 is that it almost looks like an indie, like, walking simulator, what they've shown of it so far.
I mean, that's actually more exciting to me.
Really?
Like, I want to play PT.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he gets a gun and stuff.
Oh, yeah, you definitely get a gun and weapons and things like that. I mean, there's gameplay to it, for sure.
I mean, I'm really kind of hoping I realize there will be. I'm hoping there's, like, no HUD or anything. It's just you in that world. I think that'd be cool.
I would pretty much guarantee the VR iteration of this will take away the HUD, or give you the option to turn it on if you want. But the HUD in VR is actually kind of cool. Like, that's one thing I would say. Yeah, like, the HUD for games in VR, like, floats in front of you.
Well, my experience with that is I have the Oculus Dev Kit from forever ago.
Yeah.
And I played, was it Strike Force Zero? And, like, they had it all set wrong, so, like, the the UI was like right here, and like you're shooting spaceships, so like the spaceship is way out in the distance, but like the reticle on it is like right here, so you didn't have anything to focus on. It was awful.
It's got a lot better.
I can imagine. There's a lot of room to get better than that.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I had no idea that you had never really played through Resident Evil. Like, and I've known you for 10 years, and we had never talked about that until today.
Been hiding
interesting.
it.
Yeah.
Waiting for now.
So let's see. The last Guardian we mentioned was just delayed. It is playable at Tokyo Game Show. Journalists got a chance to spend about an hour with it. They were able to record about 20 minutes of it. Did you get a chance to watch the gameplay that went up today?
I did.
What do you think?
I mean, I thought it looked like what I expected it to be.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too. I mean, it's pretty much turned out to be exactly what I thought it was going to be.
I mean, it's kind of like No Man's Sky. It's like, what did you think this game was?
Yeah.
I don't know. I heard some people are disappointed with it. It's like, well, why weren't you before?
Well, I mean, some of the press is...
This scene right here where you can't grab the thing, I'm like, oh my god, give me the controller. I will do it right. Please, I promise.
Yeah, I mean, I think the press has been railing on it today. Because, look, they have actually played it. There's a difference between playing a game and watching someone play a game, although YouTubers would argue there isn't, but there really is. And most of the press is saying that the controls feel a little loose and the camera is a problem. And you can even, later on in this gameplay clip, you can see
him have a problem with the camera.
You can see the camera going nuts. Like, he tries to flip a switch and Trico's like off in the background and the camera just starts, the camera's in the corner and it doesn't know what to do. And like, I can't even remember the last time I had a problem with a camera in a video game. I cannot remember the last time. Like, it is not something that's ever mentioned in reviews anymore. I can't remember the last time I wrote about it in a game review at GT or an eval for SIFTD. I cannot remember the last time that a camera was so bad that I had to mention it. Like,
I mean, a friend of mine did all the camera stuff for the God of War games.
Yeah.
I remember when he told me that, I was like, oh yeah, I guess that is
Somebody
job.
does that.
I never really thought about that.
And you're damn good at your job because the camera in God of War was great. Like,
it worked.
despite the insane action in that game, you never had to worry about it. But like, I think this is what we're going to see with The Last Guardian, is that it has been in development for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, and there are going to be hangovers. Like 10 years ago, cameras were an issue. You go back and read reviews on GT from 10 years ago, and we talk about the camera in every damn one of them. And that's what's happened here. This game has taken so long to come to fruition that it has problems that modern video games no longer have. Yeah. Like, I just think it's inevitable. I mean, I would still wonder why, if you've had that much time, you couldn't go back and fix the camera or bring in somebody who works on games that have great cameras to help you work on it. Like, to me, there's no excuse for it having a bad camera.
What gets me is that he looks like he's animated, and then like the environment looks, I don't know, like it just fell out of Rise of the Tomb Raider. It just looks real. Like there's some weird conflicting art types here.
Yeah, like the boy has like almost a cell shaded, like cartoony art style.
He almost feels like he's a different frame rate than the world. Like, it's odd.
It's not even the frame rate. It's just a completely different art style. Like, he should look... Trico fits the world. It's just the boy that doesn't fit. Like, he's all flat shaded. Like, look, it's a 10-year-old game running in 1080p. I mean, that's basically what they've done at this point. Let's talk about, like, the gameplay, though. Is it pretty much what you expected it to be?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually fine with that. I like kind of the puzzle gameplay stuff. Yeah. We'll see how it goes.
I think it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. It is really, like, all the years I've been talking about this game, wondering and hypothesizing of what it might play like, because we never got to play it.
Right.
It's turned out to be exactly what I've talked about all this time. It's like a mix of Eco and Shadow of the Colossus. Like, it's a puzzle it's like a puzzle platformer, basically.
Well, I think they're good at that.
Yeah, they're great at it, without a doubt. And they're also good at the whole, like, hey, I'm going to tag along with you for the journey thing. Like, it looks like a mashup of the two games to me.
He's going to die at the end.
And he's going to die at the end. I mean,
there's no way Dogbird makes it through.
Yeah. I mean, they've already showed, like, the last trailer that they put out, there was GameStop Expo this week, and a trailer leaked out of that was impromptu taken down. But I did get to watch the trailer, and it was on SIFTD for a while it lasted, but... There was like 4 scenes in that 1-minute trailer where like Trico is hurt.
Oh, no.
And he's like whimpering and crying, and the boy is like, petting him, being like, "It'll be okay, it'll be all right."
It's not going to be okay.
They're just it's not. They're just setting us up for the fall. One thing that this new gameplay did show off that we wondered about was in the trailer for E3, we thought there was a different Trico because his eyes were like glowing.
Well, there's at least more than one in a couple shots.
Is there?
Yeah, I saw a screenshot with one with sort of a helmet type thing, and behind this one.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we thought that the glowing eyes was like an evil Trico or whatever. It turns out that there's this like shield thing that you get that you use to like basically possess Trico.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And to get him to do like what you want. So there are some new mechanics that were shown off in this gameplay. Are you more excited or less excited, or does this not change your opinion of it at all?
I am probably more excited. I like this puzzle kind of gameplay. I like those games. And I didn't really know what we were going to get.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of suspected, but I don't know, it being a little bit rough on the camera work and the conflicting art style, I'm not going to care about that if the game's fun.
Yeah. I don't even know if I would say fun. I don't know if this is like the kind of game that's like fun. I think and I don't necessarily want that. I don't want it to be fun. I want it to move me on a different level from most other video games. Like I want it to
maybe
have an emotional impact on me that I typically get from Team Ico's games and I don't get from others. So as long as they deliver that, I can fight my way through a wonky camera. I did it for 20 years. I can do it for one more game. That doesn't mean I'm going to ignore it in the game eval or when I evaluate the game or critique it. But as far as just playing the game, it's not something that's like a deal breaker for me where I'm like, I can't play this. Because there are people out there that are like that. They're like, I won't play this. This is where I put my stick in the sand, and I can't relent on this. This is too big of a deal for me. I will never do that with this game. If indeed the only problems are the camera needs a little bit of babysitting. So
so be it.
It hasn't really changed my opinion on the game at all. I'm still really excited for it. Maybe a little more cautious, maybe a little more guarded than I was before I saw this gameplay. But
it's not if somebody spends 10 years making a video game, that doesn't mean it's 10 years worth of great.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
that's true.
Really, everyone should have been very cautious.
I want their jobs, though. I wish I could take 10 years to make something. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah,
and get paid the whole time. How did that happen?
I don't know.
You know how it happened.
You got to worry around year 8. It's are they going to do something about this?
It happened because of people like us. Because we hyped it up the whole time. And Sony the whole time, I'm sure they're like, man,
you got to make this worthy of that hype.
Well, they're just like, we need to cancel this game.
Yeah.
And then inevitably they're like, oh, but all the press, they're in love with it. We can't because, we'll get raked over the coals for it. They probably, and look, this is just Sony being shrewd, but Sony's probably like, look, man, we got some people in our pocket with this game already. People who are already sold on it, regardless of how good or bad it is. Well,
I didn't think Ico and Shadow of the Colossus actually sold that much.
Yeah, they sold okay, but not
great.
I
kind of expect this to sell okay, not great.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not going to be up with, Call of Duty or anything like that. But
you spent 10 years developing it. You got a lot to make up in terms of...
I don't think they'll ever recoup their money on
costs,
this game.
Yeah.
I really don't. I mean, I think it'll probably sell around $2 million in the U.S., I'm guessing. It'll probably sell 200,000 in Japan.
Yeah.
I'm not even exaggerating. That's probably what it will sell, $200,000. So, yeah, at this point, it's not really a money play. I think it's just Sony paying off fans after all this time and all this hype. Paying off GT, damn it. We gave it most anticipated of whatever for 8 years straight. So I'm just excited the damn thing's finally almost here. Watching this gameplay, it's exactly what I thought. You work with Trico to solve puzzles and move forward. And that's pretty much the game. Danger lurks here and there.
Yeah.
Peril is afoot at certain points of the game. But
that part is actually what's exciting to me. If it's an emotional, moving story besides that, great.
Yeah, it's a bonus.
But I think I'm primed to enjoy this quite a bit because I think they'll nail the puzzle part of it. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, for sure.
And then if the emotional thing misses, I don't know,
whatever. It'll just be another game where it misses every video game.
That's not that rare.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Death Stranding. So at Sony's press conference, Kojima comes out on stage and basically for the very first time ever explains explains
Yeah.
Death Stranding to the audience. Did you catch that by any chance?
There's strands. There's connections to people.
That poor translator. I feel so bad for the girl who was translating that. She did an
They're gonna
amazing
blame
job,
her
by the way.
for it being vague, and it's not.
No, like there are certain words that just do not translate well, and
Right.
like she picked up on like a lot of nuance. I was actually impressed with her translation. But what the hell? Like, what the hell is he talking about?
No, as soon as he said open world, I was just like, oh no.
Well, open world's okay. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 5 was open world.
But it means we're not going to see this game for like 6 years.
It could mean that. I mean, look, it's a Kojima game. Are we going to see it in 6 years anyway?
We might have if he didn't do it open world. I don't know.
Well, it's like him announcing, he's like, well, it's going to be PS4 Pro compatible and like 4K and HDR. Well, yeah.
Yeah, when you play it on your PS6.
Yeah, because by the time this thing comes out, that's going to be old news.
Yeah.
That's like saying Metal Gear Solid 5 was going to be in HD. Like, it's the same thing. Like, I still, like, you know, he stood up there and talked for like 7 minutes. I still really have no clue what this game is about.
Well, I don't think he knows. They just started it.
I
think they have some ideas. They don't really know what they're going to do.
I don't know. So
I think they announced it way too early. I mean, I think the title and that we're going to work on something was great, but like, we didn't need this. We don't need this for 2 more years. Just know that it's happening and like let them figure it out. I don't want them to like commit to something. I mean, this was vague enough that they are committing, but
the
I don't want them
premise,
to say
he
like
does kind of lay out the premise. So he says that stranding is when wildlife in groups go someplace, and if there's like life stranding where they just go and they live in this new place for no reason, and there's death stranding, which is like when whales go to like beach themselves. And so he said, basically, the concept is that Death Stranding, there is a being that comes to our world to Death Strand. And that's where the whole concept of it is. And then the strands, like if you see the logo there, like those lines coming down, that's not like paint streaks. Those are like the strands that are supposed to tie the players together through like an online environment.
I suspect we'll just kind of bleed into each other's worlds like Dark Souls or something. I don't know.
Anyone in this whole thing, you're seeing it right now with this whole thing about like using clubs and like we will still have the club in the game, but and then instead we're gonna jump rope together. Like I don't know, man. Like
Game of the Year.
Game of the Year. Goaty.
All I needed was jump rope and beached whales.
Yeah. What is this? It's insane, dude. When do you let's do this. When do you think? What year do you think we're gonna see Death Stranding?
Like it released?
Yeah.
I mean, 2021, maybe?
5 years from now?
I really do think it's going to take a long time.
Huh.
I think he probably told Sony it's going to be 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
And then
max.
And then when
max 3
when
years.
he's like 60% done in 3 years, they're going to be like, well, you can have 1 more year. And then it'll bleed into the next year.
That could actually happen. I think I'm going to be more optimistic, though, and say 3 years. I think what he's going to do is...
I'm sure that's what he told them.
For sure. Oh, yeah. I mean, he told him 2 years. Sony's not going to let him take 3 years to make a game. Like, that's unheard of in the modern industry.
Yeah.
Which is why he left Konami, because Konami's like, bro, like...
Do whatever.
No, Konami at first was like, do whatever. And then they were like, yo, like, nobody does this anymore. But you and Nintendo, which... They're the other exception that will take forever to build certain games. But I think he told him 2 years. I think it'll be 3. And I think it just won't be as big of a game as he's used to making. And I think maybe...
That's what I was hoping. And then he said open world, and I was like, oh, no.
But I think what's going to happen is what he's talked about is going to let him off the hook. Because he's building some kind of online world where everyone interacts with each other. And a lot of times when you do that, like... You don't have to build all that big of a game. You just provide kind of this toy box, this sandbox for people to interact with each other. And if it's a really cool concept and it's really different, which Kojima stuff tends to be that way sometimes, that's all you need. So maybe, ambition will be quelled a little bit for this project. It's also the first project for his studio. He knows it needs to come in on time. As he mentioned in the presentation, he is now an independent studio.
Yeah.
Like, he's not, like, under the bosom of some huge corporation anymore. I mean, Sony kind of took him in. They're publishing the game, and they're probably funding part of the development or whatever.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have that mothership anymore with just boatloads of cash from pachinko machines to just keep feeding into his coffers. So even Kojima, I believe, is going to learn a lesson here. And I just think the game... I think maybe the reason he's being really ambiguous about it is because maybe it isn't like of that scope that you would expect of a typical Hideo Kojima game. So it'll be interesting to see. I also don't think we see anything else from this game. Oh, there's another presentation Saturday. I know most people are going to watch this on Friday. We're recording Thursday night. Most people will watch it tomorrow. He has a presentation on Sony's stage Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Where he's supposed to go into a little bit more detail. And my guess is, once that happens, we will not hear much from this game for a long time. Because they haven't really done anything. They selected the engine.
Yeah, like a week ago. Like
right.
They don't have...
And they've
hired... that they have this is kind of amazing.
But this is just a CG whatever. Like, it's
that's in an engine. It's in something.
That was not built on the engine that they're going to make the game.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have been, but it wasn't... I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So... I think we're going to be living with this proof of concept thing and whatever he does at TGS for a while. Like, I think at least until next TGS, if then. Like, maybe he shows the first, like, real trailer from the game, which probably will still be way too early, but...
Yeah, a year in, I don't know.
We'll see, but I have a feeling this game's going to go underground here, and everyone should probably enjoy the next few days while they can and get everything you can get out of it, because I think we're not going to see a lot of it after that.
I mean, you can kind of hope... I mean, clearly he wants to make movies. You can kind of hope that he just... cuts some of the sprawling gameplay stuff and just starts stringing some of those things together.
String.
Yeah. That's what I was.
You did that on purpose, right? Totally. So we'll see. But yeah, I wouldn't count. I would probably not count on playing this. Maybe not even count on playing this on like your PlayStation 4 Pro. Like,
yeah, I mean, maybe PlayStation 4 Super Pro.
Well, I think it'll be the 5. I think eventually they will go up to the 5.
It'll be a 5. The question is whether or not it's all backwards compatible when this is just PlayStation.
I mean, on a positive tip, this could be the type of game, though, that convinces Sony to make sure the PlayStation 5 plays PlayStation 4, at least Pro stuff.
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of assuming that's what's going to happen anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if they kind of iPhone it and do a generation or so back, then... And I mean, it can be per game. Like, on the iPhone, like, it'll just say in the description, like, you needed a 6 at least to play this. I'm fine with that. Or, like, some of these, like, random indie games are like, hey, anything above a 4 is fine.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yep. So... All right, let's clean up some of the scraps from Tokyo Game Show, because really, after what we've talked about, that's really all that's left are scraps.
Yeah, totally.
Earth Defense Force 5. You ever been a fan of the EDF franchise?
No, this is bananas. There's gigantic ants everywhere and stuff.
I mean, they've always been this way.
Yeah.
I do have a bit of a little special place in my heart for these games because they're just so janky.
Yeah.
But they're still fun. Like
it's janky in the trailer. Like that's
it
how
is,
janky
yeah.
it is.
I mean, but it's almost become like part of the series' charm. Like I feel like if they ever made like a polished version of this, like it would all be over. Like people would be like, I don't like it anymore. I don't want anything to do with this game that like looks good. Like part of the fun is like watching the engine crumble to its knees when like 8,000 ants fall out of a UFO. Like it's half the fun. It's like the absurdity of the whole thing. It's like tongue in cheek. It's kind of funny. There's like a cult. Look at that frog dude. Like it looks like I modeled that guy. It's great. But there's like this cult following of people that love EDF, and I'm sure they are celebrating wholeheartedly right now wherever they are as this trailer was released last night. So that's and sadly, think about that. That's one of the bigger games announced at Tokyo Game Show.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot
about that. There are hardly any games announced. Here's another one that was just announced. Definitely bigger than EDF 5. Muso Wars from Koei Tecmo.
Wars or Stars?
Stars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what did I say, Wars?
No one cares. It's fine.
No one's going to play this game anyway. So this is a Dynasty Warriors clone that mashes up several properties that are under Koei Tecmo's wing. It's Ninja Gaiden, which I'm a huge fan of. It's Taukiden, and sort of Vermilion, I think? Or no, it's Atelier is the other one, which is like a JRPG franchise. So it's like these 3 franchises mixed up into a Dynasty Warriors game. They kind of did this once before with... damn Dynasty Warriors Orochi. Do you remember that game?
Yeah.
That was kind of a mashup game. It was like the last time they did it. I think that was like 6-7 years ago. But this is kind of the new one. Well, yeah, now the whole cross thing has become huge. Like, Persona 5 came out in Japan today, and that's exciting, all on its own. But in honor of that, like, all these other games, like, put Persona 5 stuff inside them. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, like, that's actually where Lord of Vermilion came from. It was Lord of Vermilion, Dragon's Dogma Online, and one other game, I can't remember what it was, that are, like, bringing in stuff for Persona 5 just for, like, the launch week. And look, Persona 5 is published by a completely different company. Like, it's just really, like it's just respect. They're just like...
I mean, Rocket League was kind of like that. They just stick stuff in because, like, here's a flag for this because we like it. Mm-hmm. Like, they didn't have approval to put a Portal flag in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
well, I think they did.
I mean, maybe they had approval, but there was no, like, money exchanging hands or anything over it.
It's like
just like
Valve likes Rocket League, and they're like,
or vice versa. Yeah,
right, it's just mutual respect on both sides. So, but in this case... all the properties are owned by Koei Tecmo. I mean, who knows? It could end up becoming one of these things where they do get other properties involved. I'd be really surprised if that were the case. But do you like Dynasty Warriors games?
I played the Zelda one and thought it was pretty fun, but like I really like the Zelda. Yeah, I really like the Zelda characters. Like I've never actually played a Dynasty Warriors game.
Oh, okay.
The Hyrule Warriors is the only one. But, like, this looks exactly the same. Like, I don't...
Yeah, they're all the same.
I mean, sure, but...
That's why I ask you if you like, quote, games like
this.
The game, yeah. Because either you do or you don't. And after you said you've never played Resident Evil, I'm like, maybe he, like...
maybe he never played a game.
I didn't say that, but maybe he does like Dynasty Warriors. Like, you just never know. Like, certain people gravitate and resonate with certain genres and other people don't, so...
I mean, I didn't beat it, but I enjoyed my time with it. It's just after 4 hours or so.
It's repetitive. It's just the same thing all over again, yeah. And that's kind of been my take on the Musou genre from the beginning. And look, there are some people out there that love them, and they'll sit there and gladly button mash till their heart's content, but...
by all means.
Yep. Enjoy.
Just
not for me. Last game we're going to talk about for Tokyo Game Show, Metal Gear Survive. Was announced this week that the game... You're familiar with Metal Gear Survive, right? So it was announced this week that it's actually being developed by the Metal Gear Solid 5 team, minus some... probably
the key players.
The people who actually mattered on the team. So all we got so far was a trailer and some cryptic explanation from Konami. Saturday, again tomorrow, they are doing the first ever gameplay demonstration on Konami's stage. So...
I mean, is it going to be a standalone purchase?
Yeah.
This feels like
it's going to be discounted,
DLC mode, like a horde mode.
It kind of is, but I mean, yeah, they have Metal Gear Online and Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing. I'm sure it's built on that same engine, and I mean, on one hand, I hate it because it's like you're totally like desecrating like the Metal Gear name, but on the other hand, I'm like kind of happy that Konami's still actually like making real video games. Like I would. As much as people hate Konami, and as much as I disagree with a lot of the decisions it's made over the last 7-8 years, and as much as I hate to see it kill off all these properties and send Kojima packing, there's something inside me that would be sad if Konami left video games.
Yeah,
I have been playing Konami games since I was like 7 or 8 years old. Like, I just don't think the video game world would be right if there wasn't a Konami. Like, I don't know. Maybe I have more of an affinity for Konami than a lot of people. I think a lot of modern players only equate Konami with Metal Gear.
Right.
Whereas there are dozens of franchises that I've played of Konami's over the years that are near and dear to my heart still. So it's...
I guess what's sad about it to me is that if Konami drops, no one's taking their place.
Yeah.
That's just another big guy's gone.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, indies are kind of taking the place of all these publishers that are going away.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look on the indie channel on SIFTD, it is probably the most populated channel on a daily basis. Like, as far as just the amount of content, like, on the indie channel, like, it's so easy now with middleware and things like that to make games, and I love that part of it.
Still hard, but it's
hard.
possible.
It's possible. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Exactly. Now it's possible to make a video game. Yeah. And so, that's kind of taking the place of a lot of these big publishers. Unfortunately, they don't have the budgets to make the games that these publishers were making before they went away. So,
yeah,
it is what it is. But I would love if somehow Konami managed to turn it around with or without Kojima and remain relevant in the industry and eventually went on to make another great game. Pro Evolution Soccer's 2017 is getting great reviews this week. So at the very least, maybe they'll stick around and keep doing that franchise. So Metal Gear Survive tomorrow, they're going to show off the gameplay for the first time. Are you excited about that? Or is it like a car crash thing where you're like, you want to see it, but you really don't?
I'm kind of ambivalent. I'm not going to play it either way, I don't think. I played like 25 hours of Metal Gear Solid 5, and it got really repetitive. Like, I enjoyed it at first, so like I'm not like aching to get back in there and experience more of it.
Yeah. Well, this really isn't more of it would be a good thing if it was more than Metal Gear Solid 5, but it's not. So probably even less inclined to enjoy this.
I mean, yeah, as I understand it, the game just stops. So, like, if you're going to release extra stuff, like, finish the game.
Well, they said that it is finished. That was another thing they said in the last week. Konami came out and said, no, that is the final game. And we all know that's a bunch of crap. Like, they've already data mined the code, and they know that there is other hooks in there to lead to other things. So we're never going to get the finished Metal Gear Solid 5. I want to see it. I'll be there. I'll be watching the live stream to check it out. Like, it's a Metal Gear game. Like it or not, whether it's made by Kojima or not, it's a Metal Gear game. I want to see if... And you got to assume there's a couple of Kojima's disciples that stayed at Konami.
Still there, yeah.
Because I'm guessing Konami, when Kojima left, they were like... They threw money at some people.
Or they might just be under contracts and stuck.
That could be. That very well could be as well.
You got non-competes or something. I don't know how Japan is with that stuff, but I imagine it's more strict.
It is more strict, yeah. And there's a whole honor thing that comes into play in Japan as well. And look, people, don't blow that off. Like, that is real. Like, people who work in Japan, like, they feel a loyalty to the company that they work for. Like, and it's real, like, in their heart. Like, I remember talking to someone one time at a bar in Japan, and they're like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm here for Tokyo Game Show. I'm a games journalist. And they're like, oh, you cover video games, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, what do you do? And he told me that he worked for, like, Daihatsu or something, like, designing parts of their interiors on their car or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he was telling me that he was working, like, 18-hour days and, like, oh, yeah, and it was brutal. And I was just like, leave.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you doing that to yourself? He's like, oh, I could never do that. He's like, they gave me a job right out of university. And hired me when I had no experience, and he was just so grateful to Daihatsu that they had taken the chance on him. Like, it's completely different there.
Yeah.
And so I could see some guys just sticking around because Konami was the first people.
It's just not done.
Yeah, they just don't feel like they finished what they started there. So keeping my fingers crossed that it's not a total train wreck. And the good news is they're selling it for like $30. So it's not like it's a full game. I think it's only just like a client, basically. I don't think it's like some robust game with like cinemas and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, 30 sounds high, but I think it'll be fine.
Yeah. 30 sounds high.
I mean, if it's just like a horde mode, what do you...
Yeah, I guess when you look at the indies that we're getting now, what we're getting for $20, $15, although their prices have started to go up now, too.
Yeah. That doesn't make this any better. It just means they're all so bad.
Touché. All right, let's move on to the next topic. I think we run TGS dry.
Yeah.
It's sad that we ran TGS dry in that amount of time, but that's where we're at this point in the industry. So next we're going to talk about ReCore. Little Birdie told me that you were playing this on some other website.
What?
What? So you did like a Let's Play with Easy Allies.
There.
Oh, you were just there? You didn't actually play it?
Oh, no, I was there. Brandon invited me over. It wasn't like special guest star.
Oh, really?
I wasn't given the same treatment I am here. They were nice. But yeah, we played some ReCore. I played about an hour of it.
What part of the game were you at when you were playing it? Were you in an early part of the game or the latter part of the game?
I'd say about the middle. We had the dog and 3 colors.
Okay.
And we fought this, like, kind of a ram thing was the boss at the end of the section.
Yeah. I've only played the first 3 hours of it.
Okay.
So I was not as far along as you are, and I've read all the reviews, and all the reviews say right around where you are is where it turns to crap.
Okay, well, I never saw the part where it wasn't crap.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's pretty rough, man. Like, it looks like it's a 360 game.
I don't know if I go that far.
Like, this looks fine. I guess we were playing on an Xbox One. It did not look good.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of barren parts of the game.
Yeah, this is the section we were in.
Okay.
This takes forever. The whole place is like symmetrical. You don't know where you are. Like there's a waypoint, but it's a waypoint to the specific position. So like you don't know which cave you're supposed to go in to get there.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I thought it was going to be more of a puzzle thing where you like use the cores to power different like robots to solve stuff.
Well, the whole idea is it's like Ikaruga. Like certain colors work more effectively based on the colors of the enemies.
Sort of. I mean, that's more like rock paper scissors. Ikaruga was like
black or white.
It was like, but you were like you absorb the ones that were your color. This is more just like, hey, he's white. You need to use yellow or whatever.
Yeah, which is kind of Metroid-y. Because this was created by some of the people who worked on Metroid Prime.
Yeah, you say that. I don't feel that at all when I played it.
Well, look at this right here. Like, I don't know if you had any of these problems, but I had problems where the world just straight up just disappeared.
Just didn't load.
Yeah, game is broken.
I like your subtitle. Color-coded crap.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because it is crap, dude. It is a bad game. I cannot believe this game was released in the state it's in. I mean, that was just one thing. Like, that happened. Stuff like that happened all the time. There was glitches all over the place. And the game, like, again, I didn't get that far into the game. This is pretty much the extent of it. Mm-hmm. The game gets hard after a while.
That boss we fought was a son of a
bastard. Bitch. Yeah, it's like... For me, it's like, if you're going to make a game hard, you better make sure everything else is dialed in.
Right.
Like, I don't want to ever... When a game's hard...
You bust your ass to beat someone, then you fall through the floor, like...
I only want to be able to blame myself when I fail, not others. Like, I don't... If you're going to make a challenging game, that thing better be razor sharp, precise, no bugs, no glitches, no hitches, none of that. Like, it just better be rock freaking solid. And that is one thing I would say about, like, the Dark Souls games. Oh. Or, see that?
Yeah.
And Bloodborne. Like, you know, you rarely blame the game when you die in that game.
No, it's not the game's fault.
You may not like the game, like me, but you don't blame the game for it. It's your own lack of skill or lack of preparation.
See when you play it.
Yeah, I know. And
You'll be converted.
I am going to play it, too, man. I went and did quick math on our fantasy league, and I thought...
There's no way.
Man...
You're done, and you were done like 3 months ago.
I know. I never looked, though, because I kept seeing games that come out that I knew Matt had drafted. And I feel weird talking about Matt while he's not here. It's really weird. But I kept seeing these games that I knew he drafted, and I was like, oh, well, that ended up with like a 6, like Pokemon Go.
But it wasn't a 0.
Right. Dude, like half of my team, like literally...
You should have just picked Q1 releases. You would have won.
You're right.
It doesn't matter what it scored.
You're right.
Because no one's going to give it a 2.
You're absolutely right. Like, my average, the games that I did pick that have come out, like, my average is really high. But literally, half of the games. Like, I cursed every game. I feel like, literally, like, I cursed all those games to be delayed. Like, you're right, though. Now the strategy really is, like, I would do better off if I picked the worst game that came out this year and at least got, like, a 3 out of 10. Yeah. I seriously thought I had a chance. Like, I was like, oh, well, you know, I had Overwatch and, like, all these other games that scored really well. And then I realized, like, literally 5 of my games of the 10, like...
Three 10s is still 30.
Yeah. So it's over. So I am going to have to play Bloodborne.
I'll coach you through it if you want.
Which is what you did. I don't know if you guys remember the Bloodborne coach series.
I bounced off it when I first played it, and, like, Ryan kept talking about it, and I was like... I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and like what you're supposed to do is play the game with the wiki out.
Yeah,
but like having him there to coach me through it, like
who wants to play a game with a wiki out?
Well, I mean, you can play it on your own, but you got to be. I had to cross that threshold of understanding what I was going for, and for that I needed the guide to either be paper or a person. But then once I understood it, then I played all the other Dark Souls games and loved it.
Wow, maybe I'll have a transformation. I'm really dreading it, though. I'll say that much.
I'll say this. It's not as hard as you think it is.
No, I mean, I didn't even find it that hard. Like, I just found it, like... I did find a little bit of it to be janky, in all honesty. Like, what I was talking about earlier with ReCore is, like, when I die, it needs to be all my fault. And, like, there was that very first boss fight on the bridge, and, like, I was just getting, like, trapped in the corner, and the camera was going, like, crazy, and I'm just like... What is this?
You can't see in the corner.
Yeah, you really can't. So let's get back to ReCore, which is the topic. So I see a little bit of Metroid Prime in this game. Like, I can see it. I mean, instead of thinking about the colors, think about, like, the upgrades that you get with Samus.
Yeah. What got me is that I thought this was a AAA game until I played it, and I was like, God, this is a real piece of... And, like, they were like, well, it's like an indie game for, what was it, $40?
Inafune apparently had something to do with the game.
That's not necessarily...
That might be the death sentence for video games at this point. The way his games have come out.
It's a bad last two on your resume.
Yeah, it really is. But yeah, I'm shocked that, because, you know, like it or not, whether you think it's an indie game or not...
Well, I'm a little bit more forgiving.
The fact of the matter is that this game is like an exclusive to Xbox One. It was promoted as such, and granted, now it's also cross-platform with PC, but this game was like one of the first games that they showed is like, this is an exclusive for us.
Yeah.
Like, you don't allow games that you market to be one of your marquee games to come out in this state. You just don't.
Well,
like,
when they presented it like that, that's why I assumed it was AAA. I thought we were going to get like a new series.
Yeah.
I was waiting for ReCore 2.
Yeah, that's never
I don't
happening.
think it's happening.
That's definitely not happening. So, yeah, I mean, look, like I said, I have not played a ton of it. You saw up to the point where I was at. Brent's played a little farther than me, but I would not recommend this game. I mean,
No.
I probably wouldn't even recommend it for $10. I felt like it was just torture playing.
No, it's a waste of your time for any amount of money. Like, that's what's rough. Is like, for some games, you're like, well, if you're into this, I can see that. Like, if you're into these games, you're going to be really sad. You're going to be sadder than we are.
Yeah. I mean, oddly enough, the best part of the game to me was the platforming. And some of this platforming is ridiculous, by the way. Like, it is ridiculous.
It's really hard. Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, if you get this, I'll be really
Dude,
surprised.
how many games? First of all, how many games have a bottomless pit in them at all anymore? Ever? None. Which, I'm not saying that like games shouldn't have bottomless pits. Like, I think they're good sometimes to ratchet up tension. Games don't have them anymore because people are weak sauce, and they'll say the game sucks if they die over and over. So, but I don't hate bottomless pits. But dude, look at this game. Like, look at this section of this game. Like, it's just crazy.
Oh, they didn't even show you getting impaled or anything.
No, of course not.
I was hoping for a Tomb Raider death where you're just like, whoa.
That's because it's color-coded crap. CCC. So yeah, I think we're both in agreement. We would not recommend this to
anybody.
To anybody. Yeah.
Which is a bummer. Like, I guess I just haven't. Like, if I think I'm going to play a game, I stop watching media for it.
Yeah.
And I guess I stopped too soon because this caught me completely blindsided. Like, I was just like, what? This isn't any good? I thought it would at least be passable.
It was, yeah. I mean, I thought it would at least be, like, playable.
Yeah, at least
you can see what's going on here. Like, look at that. Who wants to go through that section? Just look down through there. Like, as soon as you see it, you're like, nope, don't want to do it. You're going to make me do it. I don't want to do it, but you're going to make me do it. So yeah, ReCore, big time pass.
This is hard to watch.
It was hard to...
I imagine.
Yeah, it was not good. All right, let's move on to the next topic. I think we've seen enough of that, Sifters. All right, next we're going to talk about Fallout 4. Let's talk about Bethesda games in general. Skyrim.
Okay.
So, Skyrim is this great action RPG, but there have been dozens of great action RPGs since Skyrim came out. Skyrim is still relevant. In fact, I think the daily Steam user base is
it's one of the top games, always will be.
Still. And Brent, why do you think that is? Other than just being a great RPG.
I mean, it's one of those bottomless ones that you can just get lost in, but like, I mean, obviously these mods are breathing new life into it. That has not been my experience, but I can't argue with the results.
Do you not enjoy mods?
I've played with some of the mods, but like, I have a problem with it not being the designed experience that it was supposed to be sometimes. Like, if it's just a graphical update, like, great, sign me up. But that's not really, that wouldn't affect how much I play the game.
Right.
But if it's changing the game, then all of a sudden, like, I don't know, then you're just playing some janky thing some guy made. Like, that's not as exciting to me. I want to play what Bethesda made.
Some of the mods, though, have gotten to a point where they're pretty darn good.
Yeah, some of them are like
they're almost
straight
up
up like
to
DLC
the level
things.
of like the stuff that Bethesda puts out on its own. But you're right, most of it is garbage, or they're just like funny things, like a new skin for an animal or something, or a new behavior of some creature that you've seen a million times in the game, and now it acts completely differently, or does something differently, or is more dangerous or less dangerous. But you would agree with me, and that is what I'm saying, is that mods are a big part of what have given Skyrim the legs that they have. Whether it is...
totally. I mean, my problem was I waded into, like, the kiddie pool area. I didn't go deep enough to get to all the great stuff. I just played around with some of them, and it didn't grab me, so I left. But, I mean, there's a ton of stuff there.
Yeah. So Fallout 4 is Bethesda's new big action RPG. To me, I feel like the fall-off from Fallout has been extreme compared to pretty much any other Bethesda action RPG. Like, even New Vegas still has, like, tons of stuff coming out for it still, and people working on it, people are still playing it. I still see people on SIFTD all the time. I just finished New Vegas. It's like, dude, that game came out like 9 years ago. I do not see people 9 years from now saying, I just played Fallout 4. Like, I just don't see it. But one thing that I feel like could help its longevity is the mod scene. And so on the PC, the mods have been flowing hot and heavy already. There's hundreds of them. Hundreds and hundreds of mods. And even on Xbox One, you can't go all, like, willy-nilly with the mods. But there are certain parameters that Xbox works under, so that you are still getting like modded content on Xbox One. So let's go.
So I guess the question is the Xbox implementation deep enough that it's even worth having?
Yeah, it does some cool stuff, but it's a little more controlled and guarded.
Sure.
So you can't like just create like a huge penis that like hops across like the landscape or whatever.
But I mean, could you make your own little
as awesome as that would
DLC?
be?
Yeah, everyone loves bouncing penises.
But see, like these mods are like, they're funny, they're fun, they're funny.
Yeah.
Sometimes they make the game look better. So the story is that Bethesda all along has been saying that this mod program would be coming to the PlayStation 4. And finally this week, they basically said, it's not happening, and the reason it's not happening is because Sony won't allow it. And Sony fired back and said, you know, we wanted to try to make it work, but basically what Bethesda wants is no checks and balances over it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Just let the player create whatever the heck they want for Fallout 4. So,
well, because Bethesda would have to be the one doing the checks and balances, and they don't want to do it.
And apparently Sony doesn't want to do it either.
No, I mean, why should they have to do it? It's not their game.
Well, because it adds longevity to a product on their platform.
I get it, but if I'm the Sony executive, I'm like, no, that's your game. You police your own stuff. Why would we be doing your stuff?
Well, I don't think that's what the problem was. I think it was that Sony wanted to have final say over all the content. And Bethesda was not willing to give them that final okay. Bethesda was like, nope, the way the best stuff gets made is if you just let these people do it, all the good stuff just gets organically filtered to the top, and all the bad stuff just sinks to the bottom.
I mean, that seems like it's disingenuous, because no one's primary platform for modding is the PS4 or the Xbox. They're making the stuff on the PC, and then the good stuff will get ported to the console. Or I don't know how much porting you have to do at all, but like, all the crap will settle out on the PC. Like, you're not hurting anyone by doing that on the PS4. It just lowers the amount of weird mods you're going to get.
Well, I mean, it lowers the longevity of the game, ultimately. Because you could get conceivably... And look, we don't really care about this stuff, but there are people out there who don't buy a lot of games. Like, they buy a couple games a year.
Especially if you played, Skyrim for 5 years, then... and you expected to play Fallout 4 for that long, then you're going to be pretty pissed.
And
if you bought it for the PS4.
I think what compounds the problem as well is that the DLC for Fallout 4 has been so bad.
Yeah.
And Skyrim's DLC was good, bordering on great. With Fallout 4, like, the DLC for this game has been a huge disappointment for me.
I feel bad for anyone that bought a season pass for that.
I really do. I mean, and then the crazy part was that, like, they jacked up the price of it at the last minute. And they're like, oh, no, now we're going to charge you more money for this stuff because we think it's going to be great. It's like,
so great.
Dude, what are you smoking? Like, your DLC's awful. Like, so this, I mean, look, this is, I think Bethesda, part of Bethesda's thinking on this is like, our DLC sucks. Like, we need to give people more reasons to keep playing this game because, look, Bethesda gets it. Like, it knows. It was one of the first publishers to really understand how you could keep making money off a game long after it was released. Them and Activision is really good at that. They understand that, like, a game as a platform now. It's not just a sealed off product. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we're not seeing like DLC for Black Ops 3 next year. Yeah. Like, and that's kind of where everything's going now. And because this DLC has been so bad for Fallout, this is kind of Bethesda's way to keep people engaged with this game over a longer haul.
Well, I mean, you know, Elder Scrolls 6 is years away.
Years away.
They gotta do something.
Yeah, what are they going to do in that interim? Like, that next 3 to 4 year period? Like, Skyrim has floated that boat all this time, which is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Like, people are still discovering and playing it for the first time to this day, and I think Bethesda counts on that long tail with its games, and I think it's seeing that, hey, Fallout 4 is not really tracking that way. We need to find some other way to keep people interested in it. And I think that's kind of where the rub has come in between them and Sony.
I mean, I get that as a position. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think Fallout 4 was a good enough game for that. I mean, I enjoyed my time with it. I beat it, but like, I have no desire to go in and explore all the nooks and crannies.
Yeah, I went back and played a little bit of the DLC, and I couldn't play it enough to do a game eval.
Just can't do it.
I couldn't do it.
Zero every category.
I really couldn't. I just couldn't force my way through it. I was like, it was like I said at the beginning of the show. I had so much other stuff I have to do that I look at my time like every hour counts, and I'm like, I can't burn 3 hours wasting my time on this thing. Like,
well, and once if everyone says it's crap, then you don't need to.
And it's like once I see that everyone
your unique position on this.
Exactly.
It's
like, do I need to burn 2 hours and then another hour actually writing the game eval just to echo what everyone else is saying? And that's where I fell on it. I was like, this is a waste of time for me. It's a waste of time for sifters. Like,
are you doing a ReCore eval?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So, yeah, exactly. Good. I think I stated my opinion on that one already. So, I don't know. A lot of people, like, I know Jim Sterling, like, flared on Sony over this week. I feel I'm not in Sony's corner on this. Like, I am always, like, for the freedom of the player, and I'm also kind of one of those people who thinks that everything kind of just works itself out. Like, I know Sony's afraid of, like, there being, like, a hot coffee thing or whatever, but, like, that stuff gets flagged so quickly. It's like once somebody sees it, it's flagged, and you just nuke it. Like, it doesn't take that much work. The community kind of polices itself. By the time it gets big enough to where someone else outside of the game is going to discover it, you've discovered it, and you can get rid of it.
So I guess I have the opposite position on this because I ran the game trailers community for many years, and SIFTD's much better about this, but, like, there's just dicks everywhere. Both
there's 3 in this room.
Both metaphorically and like
literally.
And literally, it's ridiculous. People will do anything that they can do. Like, if you give them a space to go into, they will fill it up.
They will.
So if
you
fill that area, like, that they can make lewd stuff and then post it on their PlayStation, like, that's gonna happen.
But what's wrong with that, though?
Sony doesn't like it.
Why?
I don't know, because
that's my point.
Because they're worried about some stupid.
What? Though?
They're worried about some stupid senator seeing it and doing something retarded, like with the GTA stuff. Like, that happens. I'm sorry, a lot of Americans are crazy about sex stuff.
But all you have to say is they created it. This isn't on the disc, because see, that was the problem with Hot Coffee, was it was actually on the game disc. That was the rub with it. If this is like
I get it, but it was
some kid in Poughkeepsie just made this. Like,
I get it, but it was locked away. It wasn't supposed to be accessed. They hacked their way into it.
Right.
I mean, we don't need to argue about Hot Coffee, but like, I mean, it's. No one is going to go play those games for the dicks. So, like, Sony's saying, we want some controls that, like, doesn't allow you to...
literally or figuratively?
Figuratively. Nobody wants the weird mods that Sony doesn't want either. So I don't think Bethesda's actually doing anybody any favors. I think they just don't want to manage it themselves. I think that's the ruse.
It could be. I don't know. The vibe I'm getting from the statements released by Bethesda and Sony, it really doesn't sound like that was the problem. Like, it just sounds like Sony is just apprehensive about the content.
I mean, that might be possible. I mean, wasn't it Rocket League that, like, Sony won't let you play with other people on, like, for no particular reason?
And that's kind of what I'm getting at with this whole topic, is that I feel like Sony is starting to do an about face. And somebody actually mentioned it on SIFTD with the PlayStation 4 Pro, and I don't actually agree that the PlayStation 4 Pro is a good example of this, but it did make me think of it. Is they're like, Sony is starting to burn all the goodwill that it built in the first 3 years with the PlayStation. And I would argue that like the goodwill it built with the PlayStation 4 in the first place was all poppycock and bullcrap anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's games.
All they had to do is sit and watch the reaction to what Microsoft did and then just not do that the next day at its press conference. Like, people,
that wasn't for the players' benefit.
People who think that like Sony's stance was, they're thinking about me. That's bullcrap. Like, you're totally getting the wool pulled over your eyes. So, I never looked at Sony as like this knight in shining armor in the first place. I'm like, they watched Microsoft press conference, went on Twitter, and were like, oh crap, like, we're not going to do that. Like, it wasn't them being like, we're here to save you from the clutches of the evil Microsoft. No. Like, that wasn't it at all. But some people actually did buy into that. And so now they're like, oh my gosh, like, now they're changing and they're making this other console that they want me to buy that will make me feel like a plebe for having, like, and it's like, my opinion on that is like, that's you projecting that onto yourself.
For sure.
That's not anybody else. Like, no one's going to look at you and be like, you have the base PS4? No one's going to do that. Nobody. Not me, not you, not Sam, not Sony. Like, that's just you feeling bad because you don't have the hot new stuff.
Right.
And so your excuse to motivate yourself to go buy the hot new stuff is everyone's making fun of me because I have this old thing. Like, that's not it at all. But people have kind of, like, looked at Sony over the last couple of months as like, oh, like, it's starting to, like, be anti-consumer.
See, I would have said the opposite. I mean, like, they're sending the HDR update down to the other models.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even sure how that works with that HDMI model, but whatever.
Me either. I don't know how that works.
And, like, I think the whole premise of the PlayStation 4 was that it was supposed to be easy to develop for. Right. I want them to be nice to developers. I don't care if they're nice to me.
Yeah.
I want the good games on there.
Yeah, and that's been my whole point through the whole thing. It's like, it's all about the games. Like, the hardware doesn't even matter. It's like, it's about what you play on the hardware. That's the way it's always going to be. And so I just found it interesting that, and then this happens, them like stopping the mods from Fallout after Microsoft allowed it. And obviously on PC, it's a big part of the scene. And I mean, one thing I could understand is that, and Sony has gone on record saying this, like, they're not putting out PlayStation 4 Pro to keep people from buying Scorpio. They're trying to fend off people migrating to the PC.
Yeah.
That's their official word. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I don't really believe anything they tell us. It does make sense, though. Is that, it's not about Scorpio. It's about people, like, jumping ship from PlayStation 4 to go to PCs, because building PCs is getting cheaper, and, like, there's all these, like, guides online.
I mean,
here's how to build your own PS4 for $100 or whatever. Like, it's like, that stuff's everywhere. And a Digital Foundry does stuff like that all the time, where they, like, they did it, actually, where they built, like, a PC that was basically a PlayStation 4 Pro, and then put it head-to-head against a 4K gaming rig. Like, people are doing that stuff, and Sony is saying that it's afraid that people are starting to buy into that and maybe jump away. And so maybe that part of it I could see. Maybe.
Well, I feel like the PS4 and the Xbox One were both, they launched underpowered.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when the 360 came out, I was like, holy crap, look at that. Like, I knew PC would eventually overtake it, but I feel like this never even got close.
But I mean, that's the law of diminishing returns that we're just going to deal with until the end of time now. Like, as time goes on, it gets prohibitively more expensive to get that same leap. Because think about it.
Sure. I mean, I would rather have paid $600 for a PS Pro 3 years ago or whatever, and I think that would have lasted. Something that could do PC-type games that...
You would have paid more than $600 for it back then, though.
Yeah, maybe.
And that's just not feasible as a consumer electronics device. Like, people are just not going to pony up for it. I mean, they learned that with the PlayStation 3.
I mean, the real problem is these NVIDIA cards and the new architectures are leaps and bounds of the old stuff. Like, in 2 years, when people actually have that stuff, and, like, PC developers can count on it, all those games are going to require a lot more power, unless... I don't think these have the new chipsets on them.
No,
I don't know. I mean, maybe the Scorpio will.
They might. They haven't finalized the Scorpio specs yet, but I believe like
I think aren't they both AMDs?
They are both AMD. Yeah.
So
which is odd.
Figure something out.
Yeah. I think they're custom chips though. built just for the
Well, sure, but
machine.
they're still based on
An architecture.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Do you feel like Sony has kind of turned and is now become like anti-consumer, or do you think people are just now seeing Sony as the corporation that it is?
I think they might be. I feel like we have 2 points, and that's a line and not a pattern. Like, we don't necessarily know. I mean, let's keep our eyes open.
Yeah.
But, like, no one is ever intentionally bad to consumers as a company. Like, it's not in their best interest.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense from a business
So
perspective.
I think if you're assuming that now, you're projecting, and like even if they are anti-consumer at some point, there's going to be a reason for it.
Yeah.
And I don't see what that would be, especially in this situation. Like, they want everybody to keep playing that game on their system. It's just they want to have some control over it. And Bethesda didn't, and like there's something going on there. I feel like that we don't know.
Probably. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next topic. Some PC gaming conversation for you. So this week, Valve, in its infinite wisdom, as it were, decided to tinker with something yet again that most people didn't really have any issues with. This is what Valve does.
No, you sound really negative on this. I was super psyched for this.
What do you mean?
I think this is great.
You think it's a great idea? Well, good.
Yes.
That means that we'll have differing opinions for a great conversation.
This was a great move.
Okay, so to set it all up, basically what's been happening is, or at least in Valve's opinion, is that it believes that developers and publishers have been giving out free keys to players or their fans or whatever, and it is inflating their Steam review score.
I think that is a euphemism for actually fraud.
Okay.
I think there are a lot of places you can go buy 500 or 1,000 reviews, and you give them the keys, and they go do it.
You think? Are there
Absolutely.
Are there review farms?
Yes, absolutely.
So wait, you're saying, you said I think.
Are there
actually review farms?
There are. I remember reading some article about it, like there's Steam reviews and Apple reviews and stuff. Like you can buy all of those. I wish Apple would do this.
Wow, I was not aware that there were like review farms, like click farms.
That's what I'm telling you, man. People are the worst. Anytime you can game something, they will.
But is it worth it though?
I mean, what are we losing? I mean, theoretically, this is hurting all games the same amounts. So if they're rated in relation to each other.
We still haven't set up what's going on.
Okay,
we jump straight to the conversation. So what's been happening, or at least in Valve's estimation, is that these publishers or developers are giving away keys with the idea that if I give you a key, you go and leave an extremely positive review for this game on Steam. From the perspective of the developers, they're saying what you're really doing is taking the reviews away from our very biggest fans.
Well, for a
which
for a Kickstarter
would tend
game,
to be your more positive.
Well, for a Kickstarter
reviews.
game, I get it. They actually paid money for that game. I don't know how you prove that to Steam, but if there's some way to make an allowance there where it's specifically Kickstarter, like I can see how they let that through.
But it's just a key. So how Valve is doing is if you use a key to get a game, your review doesn't count.
Yeah.
The only way it counts is if you pay Valve the money, and then you've paid for your right to review the game. You don't see anything wrong with that.
No, not at all.
Really?
No. I mean, what's your problem with it?
What about if just somebody didn't buy a game on Steam and got it somewhere else and played it and wants to review it on Steam?
They can review it. It's just their score doesn't count towards the
right, but why is that okay?
I am willing to cut out some of the good stuff to make sure the bad stuff goes away. I'm willing to Jack Bauer this to make sure that the Steam reviews are more accurate. Like, this is the only way to make sure. This is the only way to get past this big problem of fraud. I mean, like, go through the Steam review ratings. Like, they mean nothing.
Well, it's like Amazon. Like, I cannot find a review on Amazon anymore that does not say, I was given this product for free in exchange for my impartial review.
At least they said it.
Yeah.
Well, and they also said that a lot of people use Steam reviews to do, basically troubleshooting. They're like, this game doesn't run. It sucks. 1 star. And it's like, there are definitely other things they could do about addressing those issues somewhere other than a review.
Yeah.
But I think this is a step in the right direction. Like, I think the only counting new ratings reviews they did, that was a couple months ago, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that was a step in the right direction. I think this is. And I think the next step is making sure that all the stuff that's like jokes and like technical problems, unless it's, them describing
a technical problem is something that is
but
it
shouldn't be like Q&A for them.
Right.
Which sometimes it is. I'm not sure how big a problem that really is, but I do see it. So I think that's the next step after this. I'm glad they're working on it. I don't know, if I got the game for free and I wrote a review and, like, it can still appear there. If people find it helpful or whatever, it's just not going to be part of the score. I don't know. I don't care.
But from the perspective of the developers, think about if you're an indie guy whom you don't get, like, some of these games don't get a ton of reviews in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, so imagine if you've, like, cultivated this community around your game. You went the extra mile and hired a community manager as an indie developer to help cultivate this community. And, I mean, just think about it, SIFTD. Imagine.
I mean, then they should have done early access. They pay for it on Steam. It counts. Do it early access for $1 or 1 cent. Who cares? There are ways around this to take care of your people.
Can you make it worth only a penny?
I mean, $1.
Yeah.
Something. You can set it pretty low. I mean, like, I've done Steam. I bought games for $0.25.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. But in bundles, typically.
You can set it low. You can set it low enough that, like, your fans will feel like they're being taken care of and say, this is the early access price, and then when it goes live, it'll jump up to 20 or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be free.
So they'll count reviews if you pay $1 for a game.
I'll see why not. That's what they said.
Yeah. That is a good workaround. Still, though, I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to have that community. You're going to have that community, though, that you want to give stuff to for free, like $1. Like, you still have to use your credit card. Some people don't like using credit cards online. Like,
okay, another way around this is I think you can generate discount codes. Might be able to generate like a
code that'll
99% discount code.
Right, right.
I don't know. There's got to be some way around that.
So why do you think all the indie developers are so pissed off then? Because you think
I
they
think
don't have the money to game. Like, most of these indie developers don't have a budget to, like, go to a review farm and pay somebody to, like, go and review the game.
I mean, I don't think it's that expensive.
Really?
No, I think you could spend a couple grand and get a ton.
Really?
Yeah.
Writing reviews sucks if you're not, like, a good writer, though. Like,
it's probably bots and shit. Like, they're not working.
Oh, you're right, bots.
Or it's slaves in some other country. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
No one wants to do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what click farms are, typically.
Yeah.
It's third world countries where they just pile a bunch of rigs in a room and just have people just click, 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 click. But I thought it was worth discussing because, obviously, everyone else is discussing it right now. And the developers, a lot of the developers, not even just indie developers, a lot of developers are like, yo, what the hell? Like, because
I still think you hit it right with the indie developers. You're saying this; they don't actually get that many reviews in the first place.
Yeah.
I think there's probably thresholds of amount of reviews to get counted and featured and stuff like that, and they're worried about dropping below that. And Valve's going to have to deal with that. I mean, I think they can. I think the fact that they're doing this proves that they are willing to work on this system.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's not perfect yet, but I still feel like it's a step in the right direction. And not telling anyone before you did it, maybe that was a little bit of a misstep. Like, you're not explaining it. Really.
How do you make sure only your fans that you want get the deal?
You hand out the code.
I've never seen, like, a code for a discount code on Steam.
I don't know. I'm getting discount codes, like, in my inventory and stuff.
I've never seen one. Like, either I have a code that gives me the game,
right,
or that's it.
I don't know.
And if you can't do that...
I think you just early access for cheap.
But then everyone buys your game for $1. And you make no money.
Well, but, like, no one's going to even see your game. Like, the people that would see your game for $1 are the people that care that you're trying to take care of. Like, it's not like people go trolling for unfinished games to buy for $1.
Yeah.
I don't know. I am confident. I'm confident that problem will be taken care of either by Valve or creative means of the developers, and I just hope it results in less fraud. I hope that whatever those indie guys
that
find
part
a way
I agree
around
with.
it,
Like, I hope whatever they ultimately settle on, I hope it results in legitimate reviews. But I think your fans reviewing a game is a legitimate review.
But you could also say that it's not quite fair because, like, you put value as an eval score thing. Like, their value's a 10, they got it for free.
Yeah.
It's not the same review as everyone else is getting. It's clearly inflated. I mean, like, that's not why they did that, but I do think there are reasons that that's not quite cool.
Yeah. What say you, Sifters? Leave it in the comments. I would agree. If there is a way to issue download code or promo codes to people
Yeah.
that would let you buy the game for $1 when other people would have to pay a higher amount for it, I think that would be a perfect solution. I think that's great. Although I still think some people would be like, wait a minute, I've been moderating your forums for the last 2 years. Like, I don't even want to pay $1 or put my credit card in this place. But
I mean, how big a fan are you if you don't want to pay $1?
yeah. Well, if you've been working your ass off, like, for free for them.
Didn't send them a check for $1. Like, I don't know, man. I think the point is you don't want some review farm putting out 1,000 reviews. If each of those reviews costs $1, they're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
That's not worth it anymore.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's an interesting topic, though. Steam in general is an interesting topic. Like,
well, Steam's funny because, like, I really like the service, but the client itself is just the worst ever. It's kind of like League of Legends.
yeah.
Like, I like League of Legends, but Jesus, get me in a game. Get me out of this launcher thing. Like, Steam has a lot of issues like that.
Yeah, I mean, League of Legends is really weird. Like, the weirdest part is how the players of League of Legends have set up, like, their own, like, unwritten rules. It's like, whoever gets into the lobby first and calls the lane gets the lane. And then if somebody, like, comes in later and calls the lane, they're like, people will report him if he goes to play the lane he's not supposed to be playing. Like, why wouldn't they just create a UI where when you join, you just pick your lane?
I know.
It is yours. Instead of this archaic thing where people are, like, yelling at each other.
Shame
it's so
Riot
weird.
doesn't have the money for that.
Yeah, I know.
Valve doesn't have the money
exactly.
to make a good user interface.
Yeah, I know. It's
Come
insane,
on.
dude. So,
I don't know. They're working on it, so I have a hard time insulting them too bad. And they have a history of overdoing something and then correcting back to something doable.
That is what they always do.
I don't know, the whole paying for mods thing, like, did they ever come back on that, or is that just gone forever?
I don't know what the last word was on that, actually.
I think it's gone. I don't think anybody's paying
I don't think
for
it's come
mods
back
right now.
yet, and they haven't really issued a statement about it either. I mean, that was a disaster, though.
I mean, that was, again, a thing where it's like,
What were you thinking?
Who cares? Pay for it.
Yeah.
I don't know. See, I'm on the other side. Like, let people charge money for their content. I don't see what's wrong with that. I think the split was crazy, but I think it was Bethesda's fault.
Right. Yeah, it was.
I mean, but even Bethesda, I kind of get it. It's like, why are we not getting any of this money you're making off our game?
Yeah, but
I don't know. The fact that you can make any money off your previously free thing, like, take it.
Yeah, but you think about the work that goes into it, and you're making pennies, and
But they were getting zero.
right. But I think a lot of those people would make the mods and would make better mods if they knew they were getting paid for it. I think ultimately
Maybe.
it would improve the quality of the content available if they knew they were making money worth making the content for. Because I think that's ultimately what the problem was. Is they're like, if this is a cut, it's not worth it. And sure, there are some people who would just do it for free anyway, just for fun because they like it. But
Sure, I mean, I guess my point is it doesn't actually hurt any of the content creators, because if they don't want to do that, just don't do it.
right.
But if you do want to do it, great. Have some free money that you weren't going to get otherwise.
I think the cut was screwy, though. It's like, because
Getting 30% is a little bit weird, but I sort of get that when you're building on top of someone else's game. Like, it's...
yeah, but that
It's a
company's
weird
already made its
situation.
money and then some from that game. And I would say, from the perspective of the publisher, they should be happy to be making whatever money they could make off the work of their fans.
If Bethesda was smart, they would have said their cut is like 10%.
Right.
And then
Exactly.
Steam's was 30 or something,
Yeah.
and they would have gotten 60 and 40, like, no one would have thrown
Yep.
the fit they did.
Yeah.
But, like, 30% off that
It's
sucks.
insane. Yeah. So I like, though, that we're at this place with games where the lines are becoming blurred between the player and the producer, though. Like, it's this weird, like, nebulous area that we're in now, and it's starting to come into consoles as well. It's not just like a part of the PC where the fans, the players, are becoming the creatives that are extending the life of these games beyond what the publisher can do, or beyond what the publisher wants to do or is willing to do. And inevitably, when things change like this, you're going to have these juxtapositions between the people who have been making money the old way and the people who have just been playing games, and that meeting in the middle sometimes can get messy. But I think eventually they're going to get all this stuff sorted out, and we're all going to be better off for it. I think the publishers will be better off for it. They'll make money for doing nothing. We'll be better for it because our gameplay will be extended per game.
Yeah.
And the players will be better for it as well because they're going to learn how to make games while making some scratch doing it. So
that's just why I was bummed it never came back.
Yeah. I think it will someday, though. I think eventually they'll get it sorted out. But it's like the other problem, too, is that like every publisher's different, and one publisher's going to want one cut, and another publisher's going to want another cut. Like,
that's going to get confusing. There needs to be just
a universal standard. Like,
this.
Look, this is the program. If you like it, great. Come on in. If you don't, sorry.
Yeah.
Too bad.
I mean, I see why they did that to appease the publishers, but it didn't work.
It didn't work. Yep. All right, let's move on to our next topic. We're going to talk about Forza Horizon 3. I've been playing this game for the last couple of days, the final retail version. I've actually hooked my Xbox One back up.
Woo!
Yep.
What's the verdict?
Sent the DirecTV right through it again. My wife is very happy that she can walk in the apartment and say Xbox on and everything just turns on. And she can just say Xbox turn off and everything just shuts down. She hated that it wasn't hooked up for the last several months. It took about an hour to update my Xbox One because it hadn't been turned on in so long. But I figured with Q4 coming, like, and again, I got Forza. I was like, it's time to hook it back up and get playing again. UI, haven't had it on for months. UI still sluggish as crap, man. Like
I had that happen. A friend of mine gave me a code for the Halo collection.
Yeah.
So I booted it up and then I had to do all the OS updates. And so like 2 hours later, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put in that code, and then like just download it for days. I didn't play that game for 3 days.
It downloaded really fast, especially compared to my last couple downloads that I've had on PSN. It was way faster.
I feel like Microsoft has gotten better, and PSN is just getting worse and worse.
First of all, here's something that's crazy. Forza Horizon 3 is 46 gigs. Dude, it's a racing game. A 46 gigabyte racing game.
It's all that terrain, I guess.
That's crazy, dude. That is just, I can't even comprehend that, man. Like, there's no, like, all the stuff that holds all the space generally is, like, cinemas, like, uncompressed, like, video. Like, there's really hardly any of that in this game. Like, there's little snippets here and there you'll see in the footage that we're showing right here.
They got to be doing something with all that terrain and stuff.
And, like, I can't show you guys anything
textures
beyond the first, like, hour of the game, so don't get too excited. I'm not going to show you a bunch of stuff you've never seen before. The NDA says that I can only show you the first hour as far as footage is concerned. But I can talk about my impressions of the game to a certain extent. So, are you a fan of Forza Horizon?
Yeah, I played the first one and liked it a lot. I skipped 2. I'm actually really excited for this. I thought this looks good.
It's good. Oh. It's good, yeah.
I was worried.
I am really enjoying this game, and I have not really resonated with a racing game in quite a while. Like, and I mean like resonate, where you're like concerned about your times, and you're like it really, really sucks you in. And I mean, one good thing about it is like, you know, nobody else has this. And this is really weird. I don't know how they're doing this, but nobody else has this game yet, obviously, on my friends list.
Right.
Couple do that are just journalists or whatever, but like I'm already racing against drivatars from them.
They must have just auto-generated them somehow.
Like I don't know how they did it, but like Bloodworth's on there, but I know he's probably playing the game anyway, so right. I know his drivatar's legit. But there's like 20 other people who are just consumers who are friends of mine that don't work in the games industry, and I'm racing their drivatars already. Like
maybe that's just made it. They faked it.
I guess.
Just pulled your friends list.
But it works. Like I see their name up ahead of me, and I'm like, oh, I'm coming to get your ass. Like,
that's great.
It's hard to explain how something so little has such a big impact on your motivation to play something. But like I know Bloodworth is legit because I know he's over on Easy Allies and he's playing it just like I am. So
well, I mean, even if it's not real, I mean, like I always thought this was a huge thing for XCOM, where like I named all my soldiers like my friends and like die. I'm like,
no, Shane's dead.
Shane, right in the head. Oh my god. And like it's stupid because you know it's all made up, but it works.
Yeah.
Like if you think all these people are your friends, like that's gonna help.
Yeah.
I love it.
So the premise of this game, I don't know if you know what it is, but the premise of this game is that you are the head of this big music and racing festival. I still cannot quite understand why it is that racing games always need to be set in a festival. Like, I don't know if you remember MotorStorm.
Yeah.
That game was set at, like, a music festival, and so is this one. It makes no sense whatsoever.
It's going to get a 10 in the story score,
no,
is what
of course,
you're saying?
Yeah. They're actually, but look, there is a story in this, which most racing games there isn't, so compared to other racing games, it probably will get a fairly decent story score. But So the whole premise is you are the head of this big music festival, and you're also quite the racer. So the idea is that you go out and you race to increase fans, which then gives you more funds and resources to expand your music festival. And so,
but you're not like unlocking new races through that? Or?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, new races unlock. It's like an open world map. It guides you. So like you finish a race, it'll pop up a bunch of like little spots on the map that you can go to, and you can set like your waypoint, so it'll tell you how to get there. Or you can just say screw it and just drive, and that's one thing.
Cool.
Yeah, I was really surprised and impressed with this game. Like, it'll give you the waypoint, and you can stick to the road, or you can just say screw it and just drive straight at that waypoint through like cornfields and mountains and whatever else. And it's a little strange because sometimes you're in a supercar and you're like driving on the beach, or you're like, it's a little weird in that regard. But what the game does is it really motivates you to keep playing.
That's cool.
I could not stop playing this game because the races are really short. Like even like races that are like quote unquote 3 laps around like a circuit of the roads or whatever, they're over like really fast. Like you never feel like you're like in one of those races where if you mess up once, it's over, I guess is the best way to put it. And that's kind of been the way the Horizon games have been.
Yeah. You can rewind, it looks like.
You can. You can rewind to an extent. You can't, like, rewind the whole race, obviously.
You're like, oh, remember a minute ago when I did that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Depending on how obsessed you get with driving games, you could find yourself sort of in that place. But the other thing I like about it is that depending on what kind of player you are, you can cater this game to yourself. So by default, it is arcadey. And the controls, I would say, on the default setting are a little floaty. Like, there's a little bit of oversteer, so a lot of times if you steer too hard in one direction, you'll start, okay, I'm going too far left, and then you'll oversteer to the right, and you start getting, like, the fishtail from side to side. Like, I found that happening to me a lot, especially in the early going. But you can basically set it up however you want. You can turn off the driving assist. You can turn off the driving line. I actually recommend turning off the driving line because the driving line is insane. Like, it doesn't... You know how it works. It's like if it's blue, you can floor it. If it's yellow, you need to brake. If it's red, you need to slam on the brakes. Well, like, I don't know if, like, the line just doesn't keep up well enough with the action, but, like, driving by the line is not a good idea. Okay. Like, it just doesn't really work. So I recommend turning that off. But that's the thing about this game. You can turn everything on and off. So you can completely turn off the driving assist, which makes it handle like Forza Motorsport instead of Forza Horizon. Okay. There's all kinds of tuning options in the game, like as far as just like cosmetics, like if you want to put like crazy wings and flares and. Are you
continually upgrading cars, or you can say like, no, this is my favorite, I'm going to upgrade this car as opposed to getting new cars?
You can do whatever you want. Like you can upgrade any car anytime you want, but at certain points they give you a choice to choose between like a bank of cars, and usually the banks of cars are in the same class. Like
I guess what I'm asking
here's like a midsize. Here's all the midsize SUVs. Pick one.
Okay, but it's not like Tier 3 SUVs. And
No,
it's like, I've unlocked the Tier 2 SUVs.
No, it's not like Gran Turismo license tests or anything like that. Okay. Like they'll just give you like a class of cars and say, pick which one you want from this, and you customize it. People can create paint jobs, upload them, and you can sort through them and choose what paint jobs you want, or obviously you can do your own if you want. You can do what I like about it is that you can turn it into whatever kind of racing game you want. There's a ton of different events. There's events that are just like stunts. They're called PR stunts, and that's what you're seeing here. And this is like a section of the game that everyone's seen like 1,000 times. It's like, it's like the first hour, or actually the first mission in the game. But this is a PR stunt where you do the big, like where the helicopter comes in, drops a Jeep, and you like jump over it. Like that's the first example of it. But there's tons of them like all throughout the game. There's sections of the road where there's just marked as like dangerous that you can go into, and obviously you can wreck your car really bad, but you can get crazy stunt points. I like the way the point scoring works in the game. You're rewarded for pretty much everything you do, and the better you get at drifting and the better control you gain over your vehicles, the more points you can roll up because you get better at just like swerving through traffic or having like near misses. Like there's a little bit of that kind of burnout vibe in there. The drivatars are great, like I mentioned before. One thing I would say is like initiating races in the open world is a little bit annoying. Like you have to get like right behind the car and hit X. Like you can't just like come up beside them and like hit X. It's like kind of touchy when you go to initiate races, which is a little weird. And really, my only big critique of this game, it all takes place in Australia.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful terrain, but it is all kind of the same. Like it's all what you're seeing. You're either in the jungle.
Or on the beach.
Or you're on the beach. Yeah, so there's not a lot of, like, I haven't seen yet any, like, urban areas where there's, like, skyscrapers and, like, city environments. I haven't seen any of it. It's all, like, either you're in the woods / jungle or you're driving along on the sand. So, but it's gorgeous. This game, even on my now wimpy 1080p plasma television, all this 4K stuff has me having a panel envy at this point. But even on my 1080p TV with no HDR, it looks absolutely amazing.
Do you have an Xbox S, or are you playing on the...
I don't. I have the OG Xbox One. So I'm having a blast with this game, man.
Great.
I'm really having fun. I really have not enjoyed a racing game this much in a really long time. I'm probably not even supposed to be sharing my opinion right now, but...
I don't think they're going to argue with
right,
that opinion.
Since it's positive, yeah, I think they'll be quite okay with it. So... I think it comes out on the 27th. I also love the music in this game. Mm-hmm. Like, they have it set up so there's, like, stations, and they're, like, themed. There's, like, a bass station, which is mostly, like, drum and bass and, like, dubstep. And then there's, like, an indie station, but more, like, electronic indie. Then there's, like, a guitar indie. Then there's, like, hip-hop. And then there's, like, heavy metal, like, hard rock. But you can also use, like, all the music services that Xbox One works with. So there's there's that new like a groove music or whatever that they just launched last week.
Yeah.
That's already integrated in there, and so you can just stream music.
Like Pandora or something.
Yeah, I think Pandora's in there. I can't remember. There's like 4 different services. I can't remember what all 4 of them were. But you can also use your own music, which they just added to Xbox One as well for your own soundtrack. But the sounds.
So you thought their licensed music was good?
Yes, their licensed music is great. And I'm pretty picky with music, and I was really, really happy with what I've heard so far. I haven't heard it all. Like, I haven't got to the point yet where I'm like, I'm so sick of hearing
I hate when there's
song.
like 8 songs.
Like the old Tony Hawk games. Yeah. Like, as good as those soundtracks were, I can only hear you about to wash y'all ass like so many times before you get sick of it. So, what else? Oh, there's co-op. Like, you can build your own races in this game, build your own events, and then share them. And then people can vote on them, and they bubble up to the top, so you have a chance of like going viral with like races that you created. You can bring 4 of your friends in to race races that you created with yourself. It is full-featured, varied. Like, I'm enjoying it way more than Forza Motorsport. And look,
awesome.
I'm not a big sim racer guy. Like, I appreciate them, and I do kind of stray a little bit more towards like the arcadey style gameplay. But like I said, you can tailor this game to make it however you want it. Like, you can make it a sim if you really want to. I don't recommend it. Like, I turned everything off, and it was like a disaster. But
I guess I was a little scared because I guess the last racing game I played was Drive Club.
Yeah, which is a rigid sim, pretty much.
Yeah, and but it didn't feel right. Like, I was way into Gran Turismo. Like, I like that kind of thing, and just Drive Club didn't feel right.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna be rigid about it, I don't want to feel it. I like that I have the option here to say like, no, just arcade me, man. It's fine.
Yeah. I've been enjoying the crap out of this game. Like, it's really hard to find any weakness. And I mean, I've been playing it for 2 days. Like, there's no end in sight. Like, I really.
Well, and like this is like solid 30 frames. I haven't seen any.
Oh yeah. There's
whatsoever.
no dips.
Great.
There's no dips at all. And this game also the second cross-play game. Play anywhere is what Xbox calls it, obviously. So when you buy this game on Xbox One, you get it on
play
PC.
It on your PC?
Yep.
Oh, you just sold me a copy of this.
Yeah, it's and they told us, they're like, here's your code for Xbox One. They're like, starting next week, you'll be able to play the PC version.
Do you buy either version and the other one comes with it, or do you need to buy the Xbox one? Because like Quantum Break did this too, but they were weird about which one I had to buy.
Buy the Xbox One version, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Which not a big deal for us.
I almost screwed myself out of a free copy of Quantum Break, which I needed because it wasn't working on the PC.
Oh yeah. I think you do have to buy the Xbox One version. At least that's what they said in the instruction they sent us with the review code.
Okay.
So,
sold.
I'm loving it. We'll probably talk about it again on the show whenever it comes out and my game eval is done. I'm also glad that I'm getting in on this early because here comes a game rush, and like thankfully Microsoft got us code for this like really early. So.
Yeah.
I got like 3 weeks. I think the embargo's up like the week before it comes out or something like that. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it. And like this is one game where I'm not having to like rush through it. I can actually like enjoy my time with it. It is nice.
So it sounds like all you're complaining before was for nothing.
Yeah.
Where does this guy get off? Come on.
Yep. So Forza Horizon 3, I like it. Let's move on to the last topic, which should be a fun one. So we have Brent here, finally, who's been living in North Carolina the last couple years. And as I mentioned before in the show, Brent and I worked at GT together for 6 years.
I don't know.
I was there about a year and a half later than you. You left.
Because you came after we got bought out.
Yeah. I was the first hire after GT was bought by MTV.
That was an interesting day.
Yeah. I'm sure it was.
I think that was when me and Jeff were yelling at each other in your first day. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Jeff's now my boss, so
yeah, that's funny again. So yeah, I worked with you for like 6 years. You left before I did. You left GT about a year and a half before I did. I stuck around a little longer. And what are you doing now,
Brent?
Brent?
Ship down.
Yeah.
I work with one of the founders of Game Trailers. We do a music licensing site, so all the music you hear in commercials and stuff like that, we do business services for those companies. So a lot of it now is based on watermarking that, and then we track. I built this system to track all of TV, and we mark where those songs appear, and then you get a list of where your music appeared on TV with little video clips and stuff.
A side note, Brent is pretty much a genius. So I know he would never admit that, but he pretty much is, and which is exactly why I went to Brent to build SIFTD, because I knew it was like this idea that was different. And if I were to just go to some web development place, it would probably be more hassle than it was worth to get the idea out. Because I felt like also whoever built SIFTD needed to understand games.
Yeah.
Because if not, I would burn so much time just explaining things like what each genre was and arguing with some web guy that didn't know games about like why something was relevant or why it wasn't, and like
we still argued about those things.
Well, yeah, but at least you understood where I was coming from.
Yeah.
Like, so you had a base of knowledge to work from. Whereas if I had just hired some web place to like build it, it probably would have been a disaster. In all honesty, so you were like the perfect fit.
It worked. I think it came out pretty good.
Yeah, I think it came out really good. In fact,
A couple days late, but it is good.
It is an awesome site. There is no doubt about it. In fact, what would you say you're most proud of with SIFTD from a developmental perspective?
Shit, I wasn't prepared for that. This is not going to help any of the users, but it's actually really easy to develop for. I'm very proud of the framework it's built on. Like, if I ever get hit by a bus, like, and you hand this to someone else, I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
like,
I hope so.
I mean, when we had GT, so I built the first version of GT that I built in between classes while drunk in college. So, like, some of that code was still there in 2010 when I left. So, like, every now and then, one of the people that work for me would come and be like, why is this like this? And I'm like, well, let's just say I didn't know, like, 80% of programming at the time. Let's just say that was the problem.
Yeah.
So,
that
like,
was the night I went to my first rave.
So it's nice to have, like, maybe peaked is the wrong word, but I have a very strong command of programming now, so it's nice to build this in a way that makes a lot of sense. And so, like, it's like we're building the store now. It is very easy to work on. I'm happy about all of that. I mean, really, the things that I'm proud of with SIFTD aren't stuff that I did. I really like using SIFTD.
Yeah.
Like, I've worked on plenty of stuff that I'm just like, oh man, this is terrible. But like, I'm still there every day. Like,
it's awesome.
Not to work on it, to read that news and stuff, and I really like how all that works.
I can say, from my perspective, it's come out way better than I ever even really thought, which also kind of scares me because what I thought
What'd you think you were going to get?
Well, it had nothing to do with you, but what ultimately, us putting our minds together, we ended up creating something far better than I had originally envisioned. And the messed up part is, if we had only delivered what I originally thought, it would have been terrible. Like, not even terrible, but it would have failed immediately. Like, immediately. Like, it wouldn't even have lasted, like, a month. Like, literally, the first week I'd have been like, nobody cares. Like, seriously.
Whoops.
Yeah. And so that has kind of been the thing to me to look back on it and be like, holy cow, like, this has turned into far more than my first, and like when I started scribbling down ideas. And look, I had the idea for SIFTD before I even left GT. Like it was something that I kind of had bouncing around in my head because I could see like. At least when I left GT, like all the websites were still kicking, dude. Like,
yeah, they're still all around.
Everyone's still around. Like,
and GT was still kicking more or less. I mean,
yeah,
it had been on a downward curve for a while. But.
Yeah, and like YouTube was starting to kick in. Like the YouTubers were starting to become big, and so I could start to see that like wrangling all this stuff was starting to become a problem. Like me keeping track of like everything that was going on was starting to become a problem, and it has changed a little bit. Like there aren't as many sites now. But that's all been picked up by the publishers, which is odd,
yeah,
and the YouTubers. And so finding some way to wrangle all that stuff, like it's just become far better than what I had initially envisioned. And if the site only ever became what I initially envisioned, it would have failed miserably. So what's one feature, though, that you're most proud of? Other than the structure and the fact that it's easy to stack upon and create new features.
I'm very proud of the way I set up there's a whole caching layer underneath it. So when you click on an article and then you click back, you're there immediately. Yeah. You were right where you were. You're not reloading any pages.
In the blog scroll, yeah.
Yeah, and like...
That wasn't that way at first. Because
really
when we launched, it wasn't that way.
And
it
was when we launched.
I thought it wasn't. I thought that was actually something that the users recommended, was that because they would click back and it would take them to the top of the SIFT instead of to the exact point where they were when they jumped out to go view the piece of content.
Maybe. That was like 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can't remember what happened last week.
I haven't slept for 2 years, so I'm not quite sure. But I think that worked really well.
Yeah.
So, I like it.
The forums.
I still have some things I want to fix about the forums.
Yeah,
but
there's
I really
a couple
like
things
how
to
it
fix.
works.
But
yeah.
like the pagination and how you created the pagination for that, like that was all your idea. Like I've never.
Well, I didn't invent that, but
I've never seen it before. Like the way the pagination works on a forum. Really?
I didn't know how to build it. I had to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
What about like just the whole sifting mechanic? What was that like? Just the core idea of the site.
Actually, that's so specialized that we had to use a specific database engine for it.
Yeah.
We could not have done that. Well, there's another one we could have done it on, but we weren't going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with how all that went.
Yeah, I mean, the speed, because what you don't realize is, by the way,
really complicated queries typically take a lot longer. Like, it could very easily, like, if this was on the same database that GT was, it'd take 3 seconds to load your SIFT.
Yeah, and what I just noticed the other day is that we're like a few hundred pieces of content away from 30,000 pieces of content SIFTed right now. So think about that. Think about that.
It's a lot.
And every time, like, you could scroll forever. Like, conceivably, you could go to SIFTD right now and start scrolling down the homepage and get all the way down to the first piece.
I don't know what your
Is that right?
I mean, theoretically, I don't know what your browser's going to do if you do that.
Somebody do it and record it. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, take the 2 days it's going to take.
But think about that. It's sifting all that, though. So it's like when you click...
It is intelligently pulling out stuff.
Well, it's like when you click all time and create that SIFT, you could conceivably scroll all the way until you get to that first piece of content we ever curated.
Spoiler alert, all time is not actually all time.
Uh-oh.
Because that wouldn't work like that. It is a year.
It's only a year.
It is all time for us, but it won't be. There are limits to it.
Oh, okay.
But you can if you do the regular SIFT, it'll just go by day and you can go back.
And you could go back all the way. Yeah. It's insane. Like, just think about all that data. Because what you don't realize is, like, every little square that you see on the site, there's so much data associated with each one of those. It's like, it's rated, it's tagged, there's images.
It's got sources. It's got all the
It's resizing. Yeah. There's hyperlinks, several hyperlinks inside each one. Like, it's just insane. And you multiply that by 30,000, and 2 years from now when it's at 60,000 or whatever, like, what I've really enjoyed is as the site has gotten older, it has become this awesome resource to, like, research games and find old stuff about games. Like, I know you guys probably don't use it. Like, in looking at our data, most people don't use it. Like, I'm really discouraged at how little people use the site. It's like most people just come to the homepage, look at it, and they're off.
But it's nice that it's there when you need it. Like, I typically don't use that, but
I use
I was
it
like,
all
what
the
all's
time.
coming? I mean, today I was preparing for this. It was like, what all have we seen for Resident Evil 7?
Yeah.
It was nice to go back and see all that.
No, I mean, you start looking at games like Destiny, which is probably the game on the site that I'm guessing has the most content for it.
Yeah, I mean, its life cycle lined up rather well with the site launch and stuff.
Yeah, but it's crazy. Like, if you use the channel nav on the page for Destiny and just start clicking on all the different content types, like the stuff that you can pull up for that game, it's like the ultimate resource for video games. Like, if you're doing any research, and man, I wish it had launched 20 years ago. So
yeah,
it just
we'll
has
get there.
all that data in there from all time. Like, it would just be incredible. But it's almost, there's those moments. And a lot of times when I'm preparing for GameFace is when I really see the power of the site. Like, it's crazy what we've created. And it sucks. I feel like people, I'm so proud of it. Like, I feel like people don't even, like, know how powerful and how awesome it is. Like, especially people who just come to the site and look at it, leave. Like, I'm just like, no, you're totally missing it. Like, a lot of people on YouTube leave comments. They're like, oh, I tried SIFTD, stayed for 5 minutes and left. It's like, then you don't know what you're talking about. Like, you didn't even scratch the surface of what the site is. So, I just want to say publicly in front of all the sifters, thank you so much for the amazing job that you did.
You're welcome. Thank you for having a good idea.
I mean, it's become far more and better than I had ever hoped. So now that we talked about all the good stuff, talk about one regret or one thing that you'd like to change about the site.
I probably would not have built the forums myself if
Yeah.
I could do that all over. That took forever, and like there are pretty decent options out there. I would have had to like plug it into our user system and stuff, but it would have taken vastly less time.
Yeah. But the end result, I think...
Yeah, I think it's pretty great, but...
I mean, we would have just looked like everybody else.
It would have been about 90% of that. Well, it wouldn't look like everyone else.
Yeah. Why do all the vBulletin sites look the same then? Because they're just lazy?
Because vBulletin's terrible. I wouldn't use vBulletin.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
There are others that you can scan easier.
Then why does everybody use vBulletin?
It's just old. It was back in the days when like GT was the top forum. Like that was it. It was that and PHP BB. Like,
yeah.
And so if you had a big community on it, like anytime you switch your forum software, you got to transfer all your threads and stuff, and something gets lost. Like, so you just don't do it.
Right.
So all these old forums are just still vBulletin.
NeoGAF is vBulletin.
I mean, vBulletin was a huge upgrade from PHP BB when GT made the switch. So.
Right. That was a long time ago, though.
And then I made the same mistake for GT and built the forums for GT, and then they replaced those in like, I replaced them in like 6 months after I left with the whole crap.
Have you ever wondered why NeoGAF has never like built its own website? Its own
built
forums?
its own forums? Because it's hard.
They have, I mean,
it works for them. They don't need to change it.
It's just shocking to me. Like, because, I know the guy, he said before he makes like $600,000 a year just off ads on NeoGAF.
Nice.
And he's never put it back into the site. That site has not changed in like 11 years. Like,
I was making $600,000 on something, I wouldn't touch it.
Really? I would put half of that money back into it to make it even better. Like,
yeah, but like, I don't know, it's working.
Yeah, but I mean, all forums work. I mean, it's not rocket science.
No, but I mean, it's working in a way that it's pulling in users and making money. Like, it's hard to fix something that ain't broke.
Yeah, I'm just surprised that it's just...
vBulletin is getting a little long in the tooth, though.
Yeah, right. For sure. But I guess if it does everything they want it to, then why not? Yeah. So that's it. You would just... Is there any features, though? Is there anything that we designed that you think we made a mistake and we should change and alter in any way?
I feel like the main...
And be honest. Be totally honest. I mean, we can be honest with each other. We've been working on a project for 2 years together.
I would probably do the main navigation, like the 3 options up top different so that we could add more stuff. I mean, we've talked about doing that, but we don't really have an inspired answer to fix it. And I think to fix it, you'd have to redo that whole top bar. And, like, I don't think you'd like losing the things coming down and stuff like that.
Well, here's the thing.
It would be a totally different thing. It depends.
Here's the thing. Here's the one thing that I regret about the site, and something that I'm probably going to have you change eventually is the channel nav. Like, people don't use it. And I think people don't use it because it's so different. Like, people are not used to having a big image and then your navigation, and then your content.
Yeah.
And
I get it.
It's cool, but it's not functional. Like,
well, to a certain point, people are already getting navved a little bit. If they only have a PS4 and they're rated down the Xbox and Nintendo, then it's already being sorted. They might not need it.
Yeah. But I feel like if we had a more traditional navigation system that had things at the top by default with like drop downs, like just say like Sony, Microsoft,
maybe.
Nintendo. Like, I feel like people would click on those channels and be like, I want to see what just happened with Nintendo today, or I want to see what just happened with Sony today, or I just want to see what happened with indie games today. Like, because all those options are kind of buried in our channel nav, and like if you click that,
especially by your ratings of it,
yeah, and if you click the channel nav and it explodes into this like wall of like options, which is at first you're like, oh wow, I can sift the whole site by any of this stuff, which is really cool. But then you think about it, you're like, oh my god, it's so overwhelming. It's like, yeah. So that is the one regret. Like, I wish that we had just gone with a more traditional nav right out of the gate. And also, we'll be talking soon, I do want to redesign the homepage.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see.
It's not going to be insanely different, but I feel like we need to bring the good conversations forward. Because there are great conversations happening on SIFTD, but I feel like a lot of people come to the site, and this is just me being completely candid with you guys, because you're fammy. But I feel like people come to SIFTD, and because we curate so much content every day, and I see this again, YouTube comments are great, because people watch Pactor Factor. Pactor says, go to SIFTD and check it out. They go and they check it out, and then for whatever reason, instead of leaving the comments on SIFTD,
they leave them on YouTube.
They leave them in YouTube comments. But the bottom line is I'm getting the feedback. Mm-hmm. And like a lot of people will be like, I go there, there's like no one there. Because what they do is they go there, they scroll down the homepage, and they see that there's like dozens of stories with like no comments. But the idea was never to have like 1,000 comments on every story. Like, some of the stories are there. We set it up intentionally so that no one will comment. Like, we cut out the bullcrap in a lot of cases. Because what happens with these publications is they try to bait you, they clickbait you. So they'll say, hey, look at this brand new character from this game. But they won't show you in the thumbnail.
And then you're just like, this is the character. So,
right.
Thanks.
Right. And so we cut it all out. Like, a lot of times, like collector's edition stories. Collector's edition for Call of Duty has blah, blah, blah. And then they just show like a picture of a guy shooting a gun. And so we'll go into the story, we'll snag the image of the collector's edition, and instead of using the thumbnail that site used to try to get you to click through, we use it right there. A lot of times we summarize stories so you don't have to click through them. We still want to give credit to the publication who reported them, but we try to make it so you don't have to click. So we'll summarize as best we can, like the bullet points of something in the blurb, to save you guys time and make sure you're only clicking on stuff you really need to click on. So the site isn't designed to generate 1,000 comments per story, but I think a lot of people, when they come to the site, they're like, where is everybody?
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is there's a lot of great conversation going on the site among adults, mature people who like to discuss things civilly. And I feel like we need to bubble that up more so that people discover it and they want to join in and be a part of it too and see that there is a lively community on SIFTD. And I feel like that's probably the biggest mistake is the site on the outside looks like it's dead at times when it's in fact not. There are people conversing and being a part of a great community on there, but on the outside it may not look that way. So I think that's probably one of my biggest regrets and why I think we need to do a slight revision or tweak to the homepage and try to, at first glance, let people know, hey, there's people here and they know their stuff and they're passionate about it, but they're respectful and they're adults and you don't have to deal with a bunch of
rare.
It is really rare. Like, what we've built there is really, really rare.
I mean, even in the early days of the GT forums, when I set those up, like, it was still a lot worse than this.
No, yeah. It's I'm really proud of the community that we built. We just need more people. Still, we need more people, and that was a big focus with this round of Pactor Factor was to try to get the people on YouTube to share the show and like the show. Like, I've kind of fought against the whole like YouTube thing because I hate it. Like, I hate that pandering. That give me a like and a share. Like, I just hate it. I don't like asking just in my nature, I just don't like asking anybody for anything. Like, I just don't. Like, I like to be self-sufficient. It's like, you know, instead of going out and asking people for money to build SIFTD, like, I just funded it myself. I'm like, I don't want to deal with all the bull crap that comes around with asking people for money. And look, that's changed.
I'd say it worked out pretty well.
I am now actively looking for investment for SIFTD. So, you know, you live and learn. But intrinsically, I'm kind of that way. I want to be self-sufficient and be able to do things on my own. And so I feel like in some ways that's been good with the development of SIFTD. In some ways it's been bad. And so I think with YouTube, we probably right from the beginning should have played the game and been like subscribe, share. We haven't done that ever on Factor. And this round that we just shot, we're finally starting to do that. And like, look, sometimes you got to play the game to win.
Yeah.
I mean, the old saying goes, you can't win if you don't play the game. So we're just trying to adjust as we can and try to make SIFTD a success.
I mean, there's no harm in it.
There's not. I don't know what it is about me that I just hate asking people for help. I've always been that way through my whole life, like with everything. Like, I don't know why it is. I just hate asking for help. Like, I've always wanted to be self-sufficient, and sometimes you have to ask for help. And I've learned that lesson working on SIFTD. So, anything else you want to add before we move along?
No, looking forward to doing the store now, and then...
Yeah, everybody wants to know, where's the store? Every day I get a question. Where's the T-shirts going for sale? Where's the store going up?
It would have been like 2 weeks ago when I moved.
You're going to hear it right now. No more me, like, telling you something you may or may not believe. Brent's going to tell you right now.
What year is it? I'm working on it. I have learned to never give due dates ever again. It won't be too long. And then you didn't actually ask for this, but I'm going to add the read it later thing. That's been requested multiple times, and like
look at that.
Several of those times it was me like, why can't I do this? I'm like, oh yeah. So I'm going to put that in there, and we'll do that homepage and stuff. We'll see where we go.
All right. So big applause for Brent.
Thank you.
I know you won't clap for yourself.
Do it. Thank you.
Great job, man.
I need lo-fi clapping.
You've built an amazing website, without a doubt.
Thank
no
you.
matter whatever happens, like, you have done an amazing job and built a great site, and I'm very thankful for it. And I'm sure everybody on SIFTD feels the same way. So,
thank you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right, it's time to go to our trailer of the week. You guys are going to hate this one.
That's a sweet trailer.
It really is an amazing trailer.
This sold me the game.
Yeah, this didn't sell me the game. E3 sold me this game, by the way. But this week's trailer is for Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. It's a story trailer. It stars Kit Harington, Jon Snow from Game of Thrones.
As a villain.
As a villain.
Love it.
It's very bizarre seeing him in this
He doesn't have a villain
context.
voice.
He really doesn't. Conor McGregor from the UFC is another villain in this game, and he's also in this trailer. Action-packed and pretty long for a story trailer.
Yeah.
Get those questions in now. Enjoy.
The needs of our planet were greater than she could supply. So we sent men beyond the reaches of our atmosphere. But the open space gave way to an insurgency.
We will eradicate the authority of the Earth.
The Settlement Defense Front built an army.
Our world is just beginning.
A war machine.
Theirs is dying.
One day they'll come.
It is not enough to break free.
Try to take our homeland.
We will break that!
Vengeance, this is Raven 6. We're on final approach. Roger 6, you're clear to land.
The Aegis guns. They appear to be tracking our fleet.
SDF destroyers inbound!
All stations, shots fired!
Hold up! Hold up! Captain's dead.
Went down with his ship.
So who has the con, Gator?
I believe you do, sir.
Today's attack was not limited to Geneva. SetDef launched a concurrent strike on the Moon Gateway port. Tigress and Retribution are the only operable ships we have. Lieutenant Reyes, you are now the acting captain of Retribution.
Salt, you with me?
Always.
Ground assault. Captain's place is on the bridge.
Not this captain. Not today.
Good to go.
Let's get these bastards. This place isn't yours anymore. Kill them. Save the bullet.
Breathe us down!
Let's go give him hell.
Hey, should be a blast.
Turn the ship around!
The pilot of this ship, it's my job to make sure that we get back.
I gave you a direct order!
Roll him out!
If you don't make that kind of choice, you have no place being in command.
Alpha 2's down!
It's time to raise the black flag and start cutting throats.
You lack what it takes to win this war.
You know what I feel like? Infinity Ward had a chip on his shoulder for this game.
Yeah.
So many people talk so much trash about Ghost, like, and I'm one of them. Like, it was bad. Ghost was not. Well, it wasn't bad. It just was
not good.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. And man, I really feel like they're just coming out swinging with this game, and just everything I've seen of it just looks so good. The multiplayer reveal looked probably not as good as the other stuff I've seen. A little more derivative, I guess. Not as unique. But it looked fun and looked fast, so I'm really excited for Infinite Warfare. I haven't been this excited for a Call of Duty in quite a while, I have to say. So, all right,
especially the story part of it.
Yeah.
Usually you pick it up because, like, I don't know, it's the game of the month or whatever, but I'm actually interested to see what's going on.
I got to tell you, I had to really struggle to get through Black Ops 3 campaign.
Yeah.
I really did. Like, and look, typically Treyarch made my favorite like Call of Duty games, but I really I got about halfway through it, and I was like, I don't know if I can do it. Like, it's only like 6 hours long.
Yeah, it used to be that Infinity Ward kind of evolved it, and then Treyarch could, like, refine it.
Yeah,
so, like, the Treyarch ones are really solid games.
Yeah. But Black Ops 3, man, I really had to drag my ass through that campaign. So, all right, let's get to some questions here. This generally takes quite a long time to get through. So, let's see. Who's better at Forza, you or Blood? There's from Eric Estrada. I don't know. I mean, I've been racing against his Drivatar and keeping up with him. I mean, just in general, I'd probably say Bloodworth is better at racing games than me. Back in the days at GT, he reviewed once I got sick of racing games, I just started handing all of them to him. And so he became kind of like the resident racing expert at GT. And it looks like that's continued on with Easy Allies. So I would say Bloodworth is probably better than me at racing games. Here's one from Surf Spider. Brent, what database tech did you use?
We use MongoDB, and we're doing a MapReduce query to pull the SIFT.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, he might.
No, I'm just joking. Like, just went in one ear and right out the other. I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Vox91, are there any features you had initially planned for SIFTD that didn't make it into the final build? No.
Are you asking me? No.
Both of us.
We've got more features than we originally planned?
Yeah. Like the design doc that I originally handed Brent when achievements went live, I think that it was complete. It was SIFTD complete.
Yeah.
And in between, he had added other stuff that wasn't even on the design doc.
There were some times where I'd come to stuff and be like, this isn't right, we got to add some stuff. And we just did it.
Yeah.
I don't know, somewhere in there I started to believe. And so, like, I really want to do stuff right instead of, like, I mean, I realized it took forever to make this site, but, like, it was worth it to make it right.
Yeah, and it is right. As far as I'm concerned, no. Like, the design doc that I handed him on the day we had lunch before he moved to North Carolina, it was a pretty thorough doc, but ultimately at the end of the day, everything made it in there. So SIFTD is now 100% feature complete from what my original idea was. Here you go. Another one from Surf Spider. As a developer myself, I'm interested to hear more about the development of the site, what tech was used, challenges, etc. Would you guys consider doing a video on the topic? You don't have to give away any secrets, of course.
I mean, there's not any secrets. I think I responded. I said make a forum in the thread about it. I'll post all of it.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to put the source code up there, but, like, the technologies aren't. I'm not filing patents on any of this.
Yeah.
But it's
I might.
It is well-applied use of technologies that are used by a lot of people. You never want to be the only person using a technology.
Yeah.
So, like, none of it's crazy, but I think I'm using it together well.
Here's just a compliment for you. Not just blowing smoke. This is from Nolan Elric. Not just blowing smoke, but I've been around the net using various gaming sites since the late 90s, and SIFTD is by far the best I've ever used.
Thanks, Nolan.
There you go, man. And he said, yeah, make a forum thread. That's from you. What feature on SIFTD was the most challenging to make it work? That's from Rewind Replay Labs.
The infinite scroll in the forums.
Yeah, on the forums.
Yeah, not
Wow,
the SIFTD.
interesting.
No, because the forums are actually, the way it works is that you could come in at any point. The SIFT, you always start at the top.
Right.
That's not complicated.
You
just
know
load
the
in
behavior
stuff.
already, yeah.
But you might be clicking through to a post that's in the middle or at the end, and then you got to load on top of it. And
yeah.
So let's say this is the top of your, this is the top of your web page, and so like this is the bottom of your screen, and here's your most latest post. So like I can't load in, I'm not loading in every single post because there might be 1,000 of them. So like when you scroll up, I have to move you down and then feed stuff in on top really quickly, but like it has to adjust for the images, which we don't know how big those are.
Right.
There's a lot of moving parts there, and
I think that's not quite perfect.
no, you can.
That's one thing we still have a little bit of
work on. If
work
you scroll fast enough, you can kick it off kilter. I need to do a little work on it,
but now you appreciate like what went into that feature.
It's a little complicated.
Yeah, a little. Here's a good one. Vin Hill, your link to Twitch on the site is busted. Thanks. Poor people have been clicking on that thing this whole time. A little late, but thanks. You probably put that in earlier. I just didn't see it. Let's see. What are your thoughts on the South Park delay from Short Raver? Short Raver, I always wondered, are you actually a raver? We actually talked about it off the top of the show. You must have came in late. We mentioned that it was coming December 6th anyway, which was kind of too late for the big holiday shopping season, but then we wondered if anyone would buy that game for someone for Christmas anyway. You'll see it in the archive, though.
Yeah.
Let's see. Here's from E. Vusin. With the Steam review thing, why wouldn't just the review farms get all the 90% off coupons and those devs paying them a bit more for the difference? I can only see the Kickstarter and third-party store customers losing here.
They might.
That's a good point, actually.
They might.
Evusin.
Well, the thing is, it's still more money. Like, if you're paying $1, that's already, like, 10,000 times what they were paying for that review. Like, they're paying, like, $1 for 20 reviews. So, like, at the very least, it's going to skyrocket those prices, which is good for the system.
Yeah. Here's one from Vin Hill that's going to be answered later this evening. Brent, how is the WoW expansion? Brent, don't tell him. He wrote a game eval for...
I just turned in the eval.
World of Warcraft Legion. So I thought about including it as a topic, but then I'm like, no one will read your eval. So
But it's excellent writing. I don't know why you wouldn't read it.
I know. I probably don't have to edit anything. I'm just going to be able to just pop it right into the site. It's
I proofread it. What's there to edit?
I've heard that before. And not from just you. Let me tell you.
I like it. I mean, if I'll go through it with the eval. It's a long eval because there's a ton of stuff, and yeah, I mean, I could sit here and talk for an hour about that. So
you'll read the eval very shortly.
We'll just wait.
Here's one from Gurzilla. What's your favorite environments in games? For example, mine are snowy winter areas.
No, I also really like snowy winter.
So do I.
I really like that effect when you're like walking up the snow and they have the wind going over. You know what I mean? Like Tomb Raider did it a lot.
I love the crunching sound of the snow when characters walk in the snow. I love that. I don't know what it is, but I like. Maybe it's just like the cool colors, the blues, the whites, the hues. Like I just always feel like at peace when I play like the snow level
like
on
the
whatever
wind sounds
video
and
game.
stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, as long as we're on Earth.
Yeah.
I want to be in the snow. I do like.
What's your least
space.
favorite? Mine's desert areas. I hate desert areas in games because there's always like fire is always like a hazard and like
swamps
because you get stuck and you have to walk slow.
Well, it's like I feel like
that's a great question, by the way.
There were some what's the Jedi game that was newer?
The Jedi game?
No, where you like you're his apprentice.
Force Unleashed.
Yeah, the Force Unleashed games. They always had like one random environment. And you're in a jungle and like you get stuck.
Those
on
games
everything.
were just bad.
They could have been good.
They could have.
They could. I actually really liked parts of it, but then you get stuck in a jungle.
I love that question, though. By the way,
that's
a really unique question. Wow, there's a ton in here now.
Short Raver is a raver.
He is.
Yeah. He also DJ'd.
What kind of music do you play, Short Raver?
Progressive House.
What? Message me on SIFTD, bro.
Yeah.
Let's see. Thoughts on the South Park delay? We talked about that.
Here's one from Johnny Hurricane. Any genre you think is overdone, like survival or just open world crafting games? I think you answered your own question there a little bit. That is a very good one.
Roguelikes, they're kind of like getting overdone at this point.
Yeah.
I think, survival games in general, where you have to like craft stuff and collect resources, like they're starting to get a little overdone at this point. I still enjoy them. I still play them. But I do feel like my motivation to play them is starting to dwindle now at this point. Let's see, there's a question from Kills with Kindness. I love that name. Shane, will you evaluate RE7 for PS4, PS4 Pro, and PSVR? I will not write separate game evals for all three versions. I would say that I'll probably address both the PS4 and the PS4 Pro versions in the graphics section. I doubt I don't know. Frame rates, that could actually impact gameplay some. What?
It can make you throw up, too. You don't know.
Yeah.
Put that in the value
Well, no, what I was
section.
about to say is, like, PlayStation VR will certainly have its own sort of section in the game eval where it will be addressed individually, for sure. So, yeah. So I guess to answer your question, yeah. Congrim1, do you reckon internet service providers' data caps will impede on the transition of 4K gaming and streaming? I hope not, man, but I really think it might be a problem. Like, I honestly think that Time Warner Cable is throttling Netflix. Like,
they are.
That's illegal, isn't it? It's obviously happening to me.
It is against regulation. I'm not sure they're doing anything about it.
I can stream anything, rock solid, crystal clear, 1080p. Then there's Netflix, and like at like 1 a.m, when no one else in my building is even awake or using any internet, it'll stop and choke. And I'm like, this is bullcrap. Like, they're throttling it. Like, they're obviously...
You don't even know how bad it is. Netflix actually approached several major ISPs and offered to set up their own fiber. Like, you don't use your regular connection, you use our fiber connection. You only use us for, like, the last mile or the local setup.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't want to do it.
So, yes, I do think data caps could have a huge impact on 4K gaming and streaming, without a doubt, man. Like, if they're already throttling me and my 1080p stopping to, like, buffer, like, wait till that 4K is, like, coming through there. Like, yeah, I think it's a huge, huge concern. Great question there, Congrim. One. Let's see. We'll answer a couple more.
Rewind Replay Labs. What was your favorite memory from GT?
Oh, man. Oh, there were so many. So many. I think my first E3 there in 2006. I had just been hired in March, and I was still trying to kind of prove myself, because when I got there, we were stuck in that crappy office, like, next to where we would end up.
Yeah.
And it was hard because I was trying to hire people, and I hired one guy, and he ended up being a total jerk who, like, couldn't handle, like, not working in his boxers. Like, he'd worked freelance his whole life.
Yeah.
Do you remember? I'm not going to name his name.
No, I made exactly the same mistake.
No. Yeah, so I hired this guy who had been freelance and been working at home, and he was just terrible. He was really terrible. And I had known the guy for 5 or 6 years already at that point, and had known him at various game junkets, and he was terrible. And I felt like my boss was like, oh, Shane's first hire was like a bad hire. And so I felt like I was under the gun to like prove myself. And finally, as time went on, like it was March, April, May, we had like 3 months to get ready for E3. And finally, I got like a couple really good guys in right before E3. And I just went out and hired a ton of freelance people to cover E3. Set up everything, set up the production pipeline for E3, what everyone was going to be doing, where they're going to be. And it just went off flawlessly, and our traffic just, like, exploded. Like, I remember,
Literally.
I mean, dude,
because the site came down.
It
every E3 until my last one.
Yeah. But
I mean,
that
you're
was
talking
the
about,
first
like,
time. Like, I mean, I just remember my boss the look on his face, like, after the first day of E3 was over, like, I could just see, I was like, oh, I did a good job. Like, he was just like, holy crap, how did you do this in, like, 3 months? So that was probably the most memorable moment. I remember he gave me a medal at, like, the E3 party. Literally, it was, like, a medal with, like, an Olympic medal thing that he put over my head, like, at the post-E3 party, which is really funny. But stuff like that means something to you.
I remember being
really
sad
hard.
that I never got a medal.
Really?
Well, the site always went down during E3. Who's going to give me a medal? But I remember the year it didn't go down, I was like,
finally.
somebody's going to give me a medal,
Yeah.
right? Like, no one said an effing word. They're like, thanks for finally doing your job.
Well, see, the thing is like, over time, like, everything, like, the motivation for a lot of stuff just went away. Like, I don't know why, but, like, the people above us just stopped caring. Like, I think they just took it for granted. They took it for granted that we were going to have the best content. They took it for granted we were going to have the best people on our shows. They took it for granted we were going to post everything first. They took it for granted we had every exclusive. They took it for granted that GTVD with Jeff Keighley was going to get greatest. Like, they just took everything for granted after, like, 3 years. Like, it was, like, 3 years, like, the cutoff, where they're just like, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Shane runs a great editorial team. Jeff Keighley makes a great TV show, and that's how it is. And like, I think that's where like the spirit of GT just kind of started to fade a little bit.
There were other reasons.
Yeah,
that were.
We probably shouldn't get into.
Okay. A lot of it had to do with freedom of budgets. There
Yeah.
was a very long period of time that, like, I used to give bonuses to my guys and stuff like that, and then it was
Yeah.
like, nope, that's done.
Yeah.
And then it was you can't hire, and then it was at this.
Oh, we were
weird
on a
point.
hiring freeze for like 4 years or something.
Well, and if you're on a hiring freeze, as long as someone is doing more than zero work, it's not worth it to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Because you can't rehire their position.
Yeah.
And so, like, some people that probably should have gone were still there, and then I don't know, it was a rough time. I mean,
First
2008,
years were, like,
I think there was a lot of rough
magical,
times for
Yeah.
a lot of companies.
Yeah, for
so
sure. It wasn't just us.
We
Like,
should be glad we had jobs, but
I was glad every day I had a job.
But I mean, I don't know. I offered to redo my budget to make up for people, and they were like, "Nope, you cannot hire that person."
Yeah.
Great.
Yep. Lots of good times though, as well.
For me, it was so the first couple versions of GT I did pretty much by myself, and then we got big enough that wouldn't really work. So I had hired some people, but I still did the majority of the like important programming, which is bad if you're the boss. I really shouldn't have been doing that, and I broke my hand and couldn't program.
Oh, I remember
for a
that.
while.
Yeah.
And my guys picked up the slack. They all did the work. I went over the program and was like, "Hey, this is great.
You did a good job.
Why was I letting you guys do this the whole time?" And like,
And that's what they're saying. Why weren't you letting us do this? We want to do this.
And it really changed my whole job there. I was able to actually be a supervisor and protect them and stuff. It was a growing moment for me, and I was proud of my team and stuff. Like that was a big time for me.
Let's see. Is there one more? Them GG. When is Marcus?
Oh.
Tomorrow. All right, I think that might be it.
Cool.
All right, that's going to do it, folks. Thanks for all the great questions. We have one more thing before we go, though. This week, not only do we have a new Sifted Elite member, we have a new Sifted Elite All-Star.
Whoa.
Going straight to the top, just like the Jeffersons. To that deluxe apartment in the sky. Let's bring it up. Rewind play, brother. Sifted Elite All-Star.
Nice.
You are the man. This guy did it consistently. Like ever since we launched our donation program, this guy has donated like every single week. Some weeks it was more, some weeks it was less, but like every week he gave us something. Thank you, Rewind Play. You are awesome. Welcome to the highest elite club that Sifted has to offer. If I had a velvet rope,
If you want us to make you another one, we will.
If I had a velvet rope, I would open it for you right now and show your selection of women to have at your disposal. But anyway, thank you, man. I really, really appreciate the donations. I don't even know what to say. You guys are just awesome. All you sifters are awesome. So that's going to do it. Brent, excellent job, brother.
Thanks.
Great doing a show with you.
Great being here.
Brent is in Los Angeles now, so we may be bringing him in to do some other fun stuff with us. You'll see his first ever game eval probably tomorrow. Hopefully there isn't much editing that needs to be done. We'll see about that.
It's my second eval I wrote. The first one just never got up.
And, so look for his eval tomorrow. The show will be up tomorrow, as always. Everyone have a great weekend. Don't forget Tokyo Game Show is going on this weekend. And as always, we'll be curating all the hot stuff. We already have curated a ton. But look out on Saturday for those two big demos. You'll see Death Stranding for the first time and Metal Gear Survive, for better or worse. So everyone have a great evening. Thanks, as always, for the people who are on the stream. Without you guys, the show would be boring as crap. So have an excellent weekend. We'll see you next week. GameFace is up and out.